Call this meeting to order.
Crack a whip here.
Crack the whip.
Was that a whip?
That's how we do it. Yeah. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests?
No, sir.
We're now moving to the adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes of the regular meeting of the General Government Committee on April 8th, 2019. Are there any questions on the minutes?
Motion to move?
Seeing none, can I get a mover to approve the minutes?
Motion to move?
Moved by Councillor Lee, that the minutes be approved. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. Next, we have the minutes of the closed session of the GGC on April 8th, 2019. Are there any questions on the minutes? Seeing none, can I get a mover to approve the minutes? Councillor Bauer? Moved by Councillor Bauer that the minutes be approved. All in favor?
I deserve it.
All opposed? Opposed by? No? Oh, that's carried.
That's a recorded vote.
We'll now move on to the consent agenda. The following items have been pulled for discussion. 4.4, 4.7, 4.11, and 4.13. Are there any other items that members wish to pull for discussion? Can I get a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Crawford. That the balance of the consent agenda be approved. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. We are now discussing item 4.4. Mayor Collier has pulled this item. Mayor Collier needs a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, to you, Ms. Strange. Just down to the paragraph under future gas tax contributions. We all know it's in the report that we received a one-time doubling this year. And it says we have 5 years to use it. What I'm wondering is, are there any projects that are specifically excluded that we cannot use this money for? And are there any projects right now that are ready that we could move ahead on immediately?
Through the chair, you're correct. The doubling up of the federal gas tax for this year is going to be governed under the same principles as the existing federal gas tax annual grant that we get. So there is up to 5 years to use it, and there are various projects within the grant agreement or federal gas tax agreement on how we apply those funds. So right now we have 3.9 million in 19. We're spending 3.9 million on federal gas tax projects. For the top-up money, we're going to look at a number of ways that we can use those funds. We can look to replace existing funding on existing capital projects with the new FGT money. We can use to fund new or existing projects in our long-range capital forecast from 2020 on, and maybe advance some projects that are in there. Not to 19, no, I would suggest moving them into 2020. We can also use them to support the town's share of development charge projects, support any outcomes of the strategic plan, and it can be used within any confines of the federal gas tax as we use them now.
Okay, so thank you. And the report says staff are reviewing opportunities to advance projects and address priority infrastructure. And I asked, are there any projects that are specifically excluded, because I may bring a couple suggestions forward, or other members of council may bring some suggestions forward. So I'd like to just know up front, are there things that absolutely cannot be used for this, or can we use this for any DC funded or other type project?
Through the chair, there are specific projects that they're used for, like energy efficiency. They can be used for, like we use them a lot in our road resurfacing. Can be used for heritage buildings. They can be used for building capacity in recreation culture. So we always can kind of tell right off the bat if it's definitely eligible, Where we're not sure, we reach out and speak to AMC2O, who manages the federal gas tax money, to make sure that we are in compliance. Because if we're not in compliance, then we have to go find a different funding source. So it's always worthwhile to ask if there's a project, if it may be federal gas tax funded, and we will research it and let you know. There are some obvious ones that aren't. If it's strictly, we're paying DCs, it won't replace DCs, but it could replace the town's share of that project. So it could be, instead of using a reserve, we could use federal gas tax in DC projects particularly.
Technology,
Well,
innovation hub.
it has to be something that's capitalized, so that's one of the
Okay.
major things. It can be used, they did expand it into some parts of tourism, and they did also expand it into asset management. Technology might be a little on the edge, but we would definitely investigate it if it was something that we thought would be viable for sure.
Okay, but it has to be capital, it cannot be operating.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lee?
Through the chair, to the Director of Finance, does that, I just want to kind of figure out procedure then, because I think since the federal gas tax money was announced, we were all racking our brains of how we can spend this money, but at the same time, though, obviously there are limitations and whatnot. How would the proposals go through? Would it be a motion through council to, in a GGC meeting, to investigate funding XYZ, or?
So through the chair, so it depends if you're bringing in new projects. So if you're bringing in new capital projects, I would suggest for the most part, we are at our capacity from a resource point of view right now. So I think the best thing to do, and I've had a number of emails from councillors on different projects that may or may not be able to use federal gas tax funding. And I would suggest to continue to reach out to myself, and I can assess the funding piece of it. The timing piece could then be looked at, and the suitability within our projects can be looked at with myself and the department head. I think as we go through the next budget cycle, we'll be talking next, there'll be a report on the next GGC that speaks to the counselor list. So the counselor list is something we implemented a number of years ago, and any time between now and August 30th, counselors are, and we do it all year round, but formally by August 30th, provide any capital projects or operating changes to services that are investigated through our budget process, and go through then the capital process and the operating budget process.
And that'll be reviewed next GGC meeting.
Well, that's the budget timetable is coming to tell you about it and tell you about the deadline, but council are free to always speak to us at any time about any types of new projects or.
No, because we don't need GGC meetings in July or August.
Yeah.
And it says June, there would be a deadline to have these kind of conversations, correct?
Yeah, you can have the conversations all year round,
Right, of
any
course.
month. So are you talking about, so to have the discussion, you can do that anytime. To formally get a project into the budget, is that what you're
Yes.
talking about? Okay, so it has, if we either have to do it through a GGC approval of reported meeting, or we do it through budget. I encourage us to continue to do it through the budget process when we look at all the projects together, so the resources are in place.
Then just a comment, then, just ultimately, I think this is a great opportunity for council and staff to examine, we had talked about this 2 or 3 GGC meetings ago of revenue generating projects, because now we have this money we didn't have before, and I think we can kind of leverage this to make future monies to, just help our tax base out. So that would be my recommendation there. No specific project. I mean, I was a big fan of Shane's wave pool idea, the surfing one, but anything like that, I think.
Low red.
Yeah, anything that can provide future revenues for us would be a really good thing to examine. So that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Get to that.
Is there any other further comments or questions on this item? Seeing none,
I'll move it.
Mayor Collier moves it. Mayor Collier has moved to pull 4.11.
We have to vote on 4.
Okay. So we go. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right.
4.7 next.
Yes.
4.7.
4.7.
Is that me again?
Yes, sir. It's all you.
Range Road, through you to Ms. Bridgman, thank you, Chair. Just the timing. I knew this was out for tender, and As you know, we're trying to get water to the residents at Ontario Range, and the second petition should be going out, do you know, Marilyn, when the next petition is? It's imminent. I would like these to go together, if at all possible. Can you just speak to the timing of this, when this work is supposed to be done? And if we did need to slow it down to wait to go concurrently with the other project, what that would mean? Please.
Through the chair, this is for a contract award to the
Mhm.
mayor. This report is to award the contract for the construction. Understanding the issues with water down in this section of Ajax, we did reach out to our partners at the region to talk about the constructability of a future water connection. And it is a viable option, and understanding that the road is at a point where we have recommended that it gets resurfaced, and actually it's a full depth reconstruction
It's
of
a
the road.
connection too, right, to the existing?
It's a connection to
Yeah.
Ashbury Boulevard
Yeah.
as well. So, we actually started some of this work last year with the removal of the trees, in anticipation of the construction starting last year, but, there were a few, conditions that were placed upon the design that needed to be satisfied prior to us moving forward. So in light of that, we needed to understand the timing from the region. And in my discussions with the region, there is no set time. So understanding and recognizing council's concerns with completing the water at a secondary date, we did have discussions with the Construction Services Department at the region. If we were to defer this project, it's not staff's recommendation, based on the condition of the road. The design is complete, the approvals from CLOGA are in place. We would like to move forward, and staff's recommendation is to move forward with the design as presented, and then manage the construction of the water service at a later date.
Okay, my concern is, this is already an expensive project, and it's an affordability issue for those residents. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000 per home. And we're going to be asking at the next council meeting for the region to look at other methods to help reduce the cost for these residents. But having to construct, so right where this connection is right where the connection to Ashbury Road is going to be. So, right, so we'll actually, if the water project goes ahead, it will mean actually taking up some of this.
The connection for the water service would continue from the Ashbury connection. That's where it
Right.
terminates.
So we're gonna, if we go ahead with this award and they build the new Range Road, and then next year they decide that the petition, well, next year the petition is, or this year the petition is successful, next year they wanna do the water extension, it's gonna require digging up part of this for the connection at Ashbury Road.
There would be a section, but the water services are they're not within the road allowance, they're north of the road allowance.
Are they ever within the road allowance?
In some cases they are, yes.
I'm just thinking it would be much more cost effective if they were done concurrently, rather than come back and do it after, reducing the cost for the residents.
There are arguments on both sides. If it's more cost effective to do the road now and then do the water services later, because we still have to design the water services to come in. That was the discussion with the region, that they don't even have this on their work plan to be designed. The water services would need to be designed, and we could be 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
And the road, in its current condition, it's not advisable to push it at that one.
That's my next question. It's not advisable, but if it was pushed out to allow for this to go concurrently, would that really have a negative effect? It wouldn't allow the connection to Ashbury, which I'm not sure that the residents on Range want anyway, because there will be a lot of cut-through traffic to go through and up Lake Ridge. But notwithstanding that, just from the road use, is there any danger that the road will not be able to manage traffic for the next 2 years in its current state?
It will become a maintenance issue, and then we would have to revisit the design. If any of the legislation changes at that point, there'll be costs incurred with that. our permits would have to be reevaluated. There's a big water connection that we had to upsize the culvert, which caused us a significant delay in the design process as a result of changes in legislation. So-
Okay, but if this was delayed, the design wouldn't have to be redone? Like the
I
design
can't
is the
com-
design, right?
The design is the design, absolutely. And right now, we have all of our permits in place
Mhm.
with the existing legislation as we know it.
Okay, so. I don't know the exact time frame. I know the petition is going to come back in this year for the water service. I expect it to pass, which means sometime either in 2020, probably 2020, that project will go ahead. This has not been awarded yet. If we did not award this today and deferred it, if we just did not award this today, does that put us as a town in any kind of negative legal position?
Through the chair, from a purchasing perspective, I'll defer to
Yes. Ms. Strain?
Through the chair, I can't tell you definitively on this particular contract, I'd have to go do some review on that.
Okay.
However, it would have to be a cancellation of the project, so we would fully cancel the entire tender at this point. We couldn't defer it a year, we only have so many days to award any contract. It's within our ability and our standards and our terms to be able to cancel contracts. What you might get next time may be a whole different costing, and I don't think, we don't do it very often. It's a very unusual thing to do. Could we do it? Yeah. Do you want to do it too often? No.
No, and I wouldn't normally suggest it. Thank you for that answer. So I guess I'm wondering, okay, this project, if this were deferred to the June GGC, does this have to be awarded today, or is there a date that this has to be awarded by?
We're 90 days from the date that the project closed, so.
So we still have that will bring us to May, June, July. So if we kick this down to the next GGC, that gives me time to go back to the region and sort of sort that a little bit. Does that cause, yeah, does that cause any adverse effects if we?
It just shifts the construction timeline 4 weeks into the winter.
Are they expecting it to start in June?
We are expecting an award today, or ratified at the May 21st council meeting, which subsequent to that, we'd be starting at the beginning of June. Yes.
Starting construction at the beginning of June. So we would start construction beginning in July instead, say, potentially. What would be the construction time for this?
The construction timelines has the project finishing at the end of the year.
In December?
Yes. I always give the caveat of us having a nice summer, and it's not raining.
Yes.
So, weather pending.
Okay, I want to hear what the others have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor
Thank you.
Tyler Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my understanding, just so I'm clear, is that the residents of Range Road are not paying for the construction and expansion of Range Road. You're referring, Mayor Collier is referring to the fact that if it's paved over, they are going to be paying for the water that's coming in. So it's, okay, and you're trying to line that up so they don't get double hit for some reason, or extra cost because the road's already built. Second to that, once the charges are all figured out for each home, you said about $50,000. Is it true? Or 30 or 60, or you don't really know? Will those homeowners have the ability to spread that out, or do they have to do it one time?
That's what we're going to be asking. So, through the Chair, there's right now provisions to allow 5-year repayment and a certain interest rate. We're going to allow them to extend that, perhaps lower the rate. I don't know what
Right.
that looks like yet.
Come off their water bill? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Regional Councillor Crawford?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Catherine. The So resurfacing is to prevent further, it's actually cheaper, is it not? So if you're just resurfacing the road, you're doing it to prevent, I guess, road construction, because it gets worse, is that right? Which is more expensive than the resurfacing? Am I correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Crawford, this is a full depth road construction. This
Okay,
road
so-
has met that test. So the road has.
So we're
is
past
degraded.
resurfacing.
We're past resurfacing.
Okay.
The report does speak to the details of the full depth road construction. I just also want to highlight that the costs are well, we've discussed this in great detail with the region. And the water services will come in through the north. This is it's a ditch, so they would have to directionally bore underneath the road to be able to bring the water services in.
So any damage to the road would they fix?
It would be at the region's cost to do that. But we have met with the region, we've discussed this project with the region, and we have, in the report, I've actually highlighted that we have approval from the region to proceed with it, understanding that we could be years before we have a solution around the water. And we are at a point with this road that it is staff's recommendation that we continue to move forward. Understanding council's direction with water and what's going on in that whole neighborhood. We also are in an ongoing agreement with Runnymede to pay 50% of the costs of these roads. This road, in essence, should have been done a number of years ago. The costs continue to escalate year over year, and we need to ensure that we're managing that as well.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
thank you very much. Regional Councillor Joanne Dice.
Thank you. So, Catherine, I take it, just a little bit of history here, then this road connection has been in our plan, our official plan for quite a long time, to open that up to the community on to the east of it?
In my understanding of this and the history of this road connection and the agreement of residential subdivision that was created when the Lakeside development was put in back in 1996, Mr. Meredith could probably elaborate a little bit on that. But the section of road where Ashbury was to connect to Range was to outlet cars onto Lakebridge, which would connect to the now constructed MTO on-ramp of the 401. And the trigger for the construction, I believe, was supposed to happen when the fourth phase, what date? I'm looking at Dave. Sorry, there was an agreement, within the agreement, there was supposed to be a trigger that the road was supposed to be complete when a certain section of that development was approved for site plan. And then the road was supposed to be complete. The agreement dates back to mid-90s, and this agreement I have in my hand is from 2009. We continue to defer the road. We have gone down and done a significant amount of maintenance there over the years, and the road continues to degrade. So staff can only continue to patch it down there before we recommend a full reconstruction. Understanding your comments, Mayor.
So I understand when it's going to, as the costs go up, we're going to be paying more and more than what we put this off. So my understanding also is with the region of allowing water into that greenbelt area, even if they are successful with the 2/3 on their petition, that it still has to go to the province for approval. Has the region clarified that? Because that would take longer, or add to the length of time it would take to get the approvals of water.
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Dice, I'm not sure with the time frame around the approvals, if the vote was to succeed and to move forward, I'm not aware of those timeframes.
So maybe that's something we can clarify through the region, because that's my understanding, that's another step in the process before you can move to it. Thank you.
Are there any further comments or questions to this item? You're welcome. Mayor Collier?
Is everybody finished?
Yes.
Just to Councillor Dye's comment, I don't believe it has to go back to the province, and if we've met that with the declaration that it's a health issue, but I stand to be corrected, I don't think we do. I'm gonna move that we refer this to the June GGC meeting, please.
Mayor Collins has moved this for the June meeting. Okay.
Just I need to find out some more information from the region and just see where this petition is. Councillor Crawford has received an email from John Prest of the region saying they're looking at bringing the fielding and the outro ones at the same time, which is not,
After May 29th.
we don't want to tie them together. That's not the right way to do this. So I want to have a quick meeting with them. And I don't think we're going to do the final lift of asphalt in December anyway. My thoughts, are we? Anyway, sorry, Catherine, but I think we need just some more time just to figure this out.
Yes, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you have enough time to be able to do your research this week, Mr. Mayor, and so that it could come back to council for Monday?
Probably.
Tuesday?
Probably.
Could we do that so that it doesn't interfere with the construction timeline?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll withdraw my promotion.
So, can I just ask a question about it?
Councillor Bauer?
Thank you. So then, I guess I want to know what would happen if so you'll have an answer hopefully by Tuesday. Based on that answer, what would the next step be?
Yes.
So that would mean either, yeah, okay, the answer to the first question. So then that would mean we would go back and look at approving this contract, or changing the timeline, or
Cancel.
canceling the contract, so bring us back to another discussion of what to do, based on what the region tells us regarding the water down there. Is that correct?
My understanding is, through the chair, my understanding is that the information they've given you is based on, like, right now. They know this is coming, but they don't know when. So as of the information right now, this is the information right now.
Okay.
We expect it to change. So I just want to make sure it's not going to change in the next 3 months. And all of a sudden, we're in the middle of one project, and now we have another one that's going to follow shortly after. And
So what if the information you get is, we're not sure?
yeah, if nothing's happening, then we'll deal with that next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Point of order then, do we still need a motion to change it to the date to move this to council? No, that just, okay.
We should have a motion to defer, shouldn't
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
No, we can still approve it today, but we don't ratify
Are
it
you
on
looking,
Tuesday.
that's what I would, clarification, are you looking to do with the current
No, we
motion?
can still approve it today,
Okay.
and then whether we ratify it or not on Tuesday is there. Yes, if need be, but we'll find out.
So do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Pick one.
Oh, it'll always be you.
No, you just can't do it.
Councillor Dice.
Oh.
She was up first,
King
man. You're
Solomon
looking
over
at
there.
me.
Set the baby in half.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Saw that.
Mayor Collier pulled 4.11.
Oh, sorry to be a
The
pain.
last minute, yeah.
Facility
Are you
usage.
sorry?
Not really. Thank you through you to respond, I guess. Just the numbers are disappointing. The usage numbers, well, especially for soccer, 11% peak usage.
So when you used to defer to Ms. Bridgman, I don't
Ms.
look
Bridgman.
after soccer or outdoor fields. Sorry, Catherine.
It's disappointing.
It says prepared by Recreation, Culture, Community Development.
Yeah, so there's two authors on the report, one from
Okay.
Operations and Environmental Services, one from
Bridgman.
Recreation and Culture.
And
So
we've had
share
this
the
conversation briefly,
report. We have.
and you probably knew I would pull it today. So it's very low, 11%. And that's combined usage total of our 27 soccer fields, I think it is.
So we have 39 soccer pitches.
39 soccer.
13 grass senior, 4 junior, and 22 micro minis.
Okay. What are we going to do as far as, like, does it make sense to still be spending all the money we spend to maintain 30-odd fields when we're at 11% usage? Or should we look at maybe what other uses, like perhaps cricket or something else, are there going forward? I understand we're doing the recreation master plan as well, and this will be part of that. Are there better ways we can use our operations resources rather than maintain fields that aren't being used?
Through through the chair to Mayor, we have been in discussions with our user groups. I know that we recently had a meeting with our soccer groups. Our usage on the evening weekends is still well attended, but soccer doesn't play on Fridays and they don't play on the weekends. So in discussion with staff, in understanding what we could do to be able to promote the use of those fields going forward, we are looking at different strategies that we are, cricket being one of them, and how we can use those fields. We would have to maintain the fields irregardless, so we might not keep them up to a soccer standards, but it's still a town asset and we are required to cut it and we're required to maintain it. As part of the recreation master plan, I know that Ms. Vaughn can speak to it a little bit more in regards to some of the terms of reference with regards to how we've asked the consultants to look at the usage of fields.
So, from Chair to Mayor Collier, absolutely. We are very much aware that since the last iteration of the agriculture master plan occurred, there has been a switch in some of our sport numbers in terms of the amount of teams are fielding, what their pipeline looks like, as well as our demographics in Ajax. So that is a big area of focus, looking at what has changed since the last iteration of the agriculture master plan. Where are we on track? Where do we need to tweak some of our programs and services? What does that look like? There will be a full opportunity for the community to weigh in on that conversation. What we know is that obviously our sport groups are going to come out and they're going to speak very loudly to what they would like. We're hoping to balance that information with the broader information to look at what's really happening and then line that up beside numbers. So looking at organizations and what their membership is like, what does their pipeline look like? Are the asks that they're putting forward matching with what their actual capacity of the club is? That's sometimes where the clubs are struggling in wanting to be larger than perhaps they are at the current time and not necessarily understanding where the sport may have declined a little bit in membership numbers.
Well, yeah, from memory, a little over a decade ago, we had, it appeared, I think it was too much baseball, not enough soccer. And we've kind of made that transition, and now it appears we might have too much soccer and not enough of something else. So one of the other complaints we hear is some of the user fees are high, and they say as far as other municipalities, we have to explain to them, yeah, but our fields are better and we include lights and blah, blah, blah. But what I'm thinking is if we're servicing or keeping all the fields up to this level, we're spending obviously more money than if we kept if we could manage the soccer club's usage with 12 fields, say, for instance, or just our tier 1 fields. And we're able to reduce the costs on the others because they're not used as much. That would overall, I guess, affect our user fees, or could affect our user fees.
We would have to evaluate if we could still manage the request of the user groups
Yeah.
with just using our type 1 fields.
Okay, that'll be part of the recreation master plan. Okay. All right, I hope to see, like, if we look at pools and you look at hockey, like, they're great. They're very highly used, but they're also indoors and used year round. Right? So that's, I guess that helps my business plan for a dome. Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Councillor Sterling Lee.
Anecdotally, I guess I'm kind of echoing what Mayor Collier was saying. Just we keep hearing that our user fees are so high, and so I mean the layman in me is just like, well, why don't we just reduce them and then we'll get more capacity? But I guess ultimately the issue with that is that we're still operating at a bit of a loss on these fields, factoring those costs in. Is that how that works?
Ms. Vaughn, would you like to respond?
If it's okay, Catherine, I'll respond on behalf of both of us. So through the chair to Councillor Lee. Yes, you're hearing from the user groups that our user fees are high. When we do our comparators, as we do every year, when we go into our user fee process, we are not, there's two different pieces that are at play here. One is the like for like, so where we're comparing perhaps an unlit field in another municipality, for example, in terms of Catherine's case. But what you will find is that we are not, in fact, over the average in terms of our user fees overall. However, that being said, we are also ensuring that user fees are also part of the agriculture master plan, so looking at where we sit in relation to not only our neighboring municipalities, but the industry overall. Are there revenue generating opportunities that, you know, in terms of an increase in user fees that we need to think about? Are there other fees that we need to consider as well? So we're looking at that large offering to make sure we are on target, we are on track, there's fairness and equity in sport, and we're building sport, but we're also ensuring that we're not leaving revenue on the table.
Right, I guess that's more my question, because you've answered this question, I think, every GGC now at this point. But that said, like, it's not just as simple as let's reduce fees on non-peak times,
Right.
because
Yes.
even if we did that, we would still be operating at with a loss, presumably, or a severe loss.
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Lee, yes, you would be, we would still be maintaining the fields, but to Ms. Vaughn's point, you can't compare one of the Pickering fields to the Pan Am ball fields. They're not, it's an apples to oranges comparison, and when we hear that message from the user groups, they're trying to make that direct comparison, which isn't there. And our fields are, we charge a lump sum, whereas other municipalities charge for additional hydro for lights. And we don't do that, so it's not an apples to apples comparison when
Sure.
they say that. And our fees are very competitive. So I would say that our fields are some of the best in the region, and our fees are competitive as well.
Yeah, no, again, my overall point was, even if we were to maximize, if you will, and, you know, lower fees on non-peak times, it would, the math would not work out for the town. I think that's what the point I want to just confirm with you.
Yes.
And you're both nodding, it seems to be the point. So yeah, I think that's, because I think when people were to see this report, they'd be like, well, yes, just open them up more often. But I think there's a larger, large economic picture to be painted, and I just wanted to, yeah, so thank you for painting.
Thank you, Directors Bridgman and Vaughn. Is that it?
Thank you.
Councillor, yeah, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. So how do we know how our usage compares to other municipalities? Like, are the other municipalities also sort of lagging in soccer and baseball and over the top?
So through the chair, I'll attempt to answer that to some degree. So every municipality is somewhat different in the way they report. Some municipalities aren't doing a usage report the way the town of Ajax is, so it's hard to compare numbers when not all municipalities are participating in this process. I think it's a useful process because it allows us to see at a glance where we're doing. The other sort of challenge currently in the industry is that we did recently change software, which doesn't sound like it should matter, but in terms of the ability of the industry right now to do comparative analysis for year over year, when we switched out of class to ActiveNet, for example, the systems don't hold the same information. So what you're finding right now, and we actually had a good chat about with one of the individuals we're talking to about the agriculture master plan, is industry-wide, municipalities are struggling, especially those who are on ActiveNet, on figuring out how to make this system work. We have a great base now, and I actually want to give kudos to Sue Scobie, who's here, who was our ActiveNet person. We've been able to really put together a great data set that I think is going to serve the town of Ajax well moving forward. But in terms of that comparative analysis, municipality to municipality, it doesn't always exist. So where it does exist, we look, but we can't always speak to it with a great degree of certainty. I will defer to Catherine on ball and soccer. That's not something we have looked at currently, because we obviously not have ball and soccer in our domain, but we may be the same.
Through the chair, to Councillor Bauer. We don't typically look at that. We look at the trends through what's popular, what isn't, of course, because we want to be able to adjust our programming to suit. However, different municipalities have different clubs attached to them. In Whitby, they have they have two very large domes. So soccer has a big following in the town of Whitby. Pickering also has a very large dome, so they play 12 months of the year. And we do not offer that service here in the town of Ajax. So it's hard to make those parallel.
So then just to follow up what you had said, Director Vaughn, when there are comparatives, you do compare. and where do we sit on that?
So through the chair to Councilor Bauer. So again, traditionally, we're doing quite well. So for example, when we look at our aquatics, as you can see in our user report,
Full.
we're full. We're full and we have wait lists. So we're doing really well. Aquatics is, especially in lakeshore municipalities, certainly something that luckily parents understand that it's a life skill. However, I do believe strongly in our facilities and our staff have been able to rise us above, and we do fairly well in that area. So where there are comparators, we absolutely do check. And sometimes it may not be in a formalized usage report, like I said, but for example, the aquatics group meets, all the Durham leads meet, and they talk about where their usage is at, where their program is at, what trends are they seeing, what's happening from a hiring practice. So it's really important for us to stay connected with our local municipalities, and we are also part of a HOFCA, I don't know if I do the acronym correctly. So looking at municipalities and their sort of administrative facility usage folks as well, and looking around the tables, what's happening all over the wider family of municipalities as well. So where we can look at best practices, where we can revise, where we can learn from other lessons elsewhere, we're definitely keen to do that. And staff are sitting at a lot of those tables.
Thank you.
Thank you for the detailed explanation, Directors. Was that to your satisfaction, Councillor Bauer?
It sure was.
Wonderful. Regional Councillor Joanne Dice, please.
So are we seeing a sort of a shift here? It's been coming, I know, for a while with soccer, and it's taking its time. But is there a shift in the way that families are doing leisure recreation now? Could that be part of that?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilor Dyes, we're seeing people are busy, right? People have lots of different demands, conflicts. We're seeing, for example, a rise in the demand for drop-in. So we want to participate in leisure activities, but we want to do it when we can do it. We don't want to come every Thursday at 6:30, but we'd like to be able to come whenever we happen to have a free night. So we've been in rec and culture, we've really been looking at how can we promote and add to sort of our drop-in, no commitment service offerings, and we're finding that's really working well, both for adults and for children and youth. So that's definitely an area we're keeping our eye on. You'll see through our rec guide, more and more of those offerings are coming up, and we're looking at different ways to manage that, promote that, how people can take advantage of passes for that, all those sorts of things that go into when you have a bit of a shift in your programming. But definitely it's a trend we're seeing for sure.
Thank you. That's my sense too, with the number of families that can cycling around and using passes to walking and just doing things in the community during the weekend daytime that we prefer, like tree plantings, things like that. So there, more and more families are coming out, and I mean it surprised me, the usage, the percentage of the uses did surprise me, particularly with artificial turf. We get a lot of pressure from the different sports organizations, and we really thought that artificial turf was something that was going to really take off, and it's slow moving. So I think that we need to keep an eye on this. It's something as simple as you can make revenue on other ideas too. Leisure free parks are so amazing in bringing the community together, and you could be a member of a leisure fair that helps offset the cost of the maintenance. So, and that's something people love to do. They meet their neighbors and then become, friends through that experience. So, yeah, I look forward to hearing in the future what we can do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any further questions or comments on this item? Mayor Colley, would you like to move this recommendation?
I'd love to move this recommendation.
Mayor Colley has moved the recommendation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Mayor Collier again has
All right.
pulled 4.13.
Last one.
Last one.
Sorry for the late meeting, Chair. Through you to Mr. Hannan, regarding the bylaw level of usage. Let me just find it. Levels of service. Mr. Hannon, I'm glad to see this, and I've been pushing for this, to get away from the complaint-driven process to a more proactive approach on certain things like, parking and removing of the signs and that type of thing. And I'm glad to see a couple of these things for the winter weather events. So given this change, that will allow to start ticketing. But quite honestly, the people that are parking on the street, I mean, they know it's snowing, they know they're not supposed to be there. We passed a few years ago authorization for towing. Can you remind me why we don't just tow these vehicles? Because that to me would solve it once and for all. You get towed and you're not gonna do it again.
Through the chair, the issue that we had with the towing was not the availability of tow trucks during those inclement weathers. So that the events were taking 45 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours for a tow truck to arrive. We're in the process now of arranging a final contract with a tow truck company that says that they have, where they will be able to guarantee us a half an hour to 45-minute maximum. So we're in the final stages of having that negotiation. And again, the big change is going to be a wording in the bylaw that we're putting through that will allow us now to go out and start ticketing the vehicle from the time that the plows and the salt trucks hit the road, rather than waiting till they're hitting the residential streets. So we'll be able to ticket in that regard.
Okay. And yeah, to that, if you ticket somebody, the car could still sit there for 8, 10, 12-hour days even with the ticket on it, which doesn't solve our issue. So I'm glad to hear that. My next thing, if you hadn't said about working with the contract, is when are we gonna buy our own and just have it in operations and just for when we need it?
Through the chair, we haven't even begun to look into that. There's a whole liability issue, there's a whole staffing issue. There's the legality of the impounding of vehicles and the Liens Act, and right now it's in our best interest to contract that out to a third party.
Okay. The other is to do, I'm glad to see the wireframe signs, so that it's already seen a huge improvement. To the regular parking, year-round, we've got the pilot project, which is allowing somebody to get a permit for up to 12 times per year. It's 12?
Through the chair, correct.
12 times. And we're gonna have a report back on that when, in June?
In February, the council direction was 1
February
year
next
after
year?
the project was launched, which was June 9, 2019. Or sorry, January, sorry, my apologies. January 2019, so it'll come forward next February.
So, what are we doing as far as, because I don't recall seeing it in here, for the proactive parking enforcement? Are we still on strictly a reactive complaint base for parking enforcement?
Through the chair, we still have the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. provision that we do proactively during the winter season to remind residents that before you go to bed, take your vehicles off the street. We do all proactive for anything that we deem to be a public safety issue, left wheels to curb, fire hydrant, sidewalk, hawking, those types, we do all proactive. If you're asking about the 3-hour complaint limits, that is something that is driven by residents complaining regarding excessive on-street parking.
Okay, so on-street parking basically is allowed unless somebody complains.
For the 3-hour limit, through the chair, correct.
But if nobody complains, a car could be there indefinitely.
Through the chair, correct, during the non-winter peak season.
What would it take as far as level of service change to have proactive parking enforcement?
It would involve
Yeah.
staff to lead the table, to reassess what staffing we would need, what vehicles we would need. With every ticket that gets issued, there's a potential that we'd be going to court. There's a whole added increased cost. The other issue that I would remind council about is that if we were going to be more aggressive on the tickets we already issued, which generates approximately $500,000 of revenue now, those residents that would be receiving those tickets would be the same ones that would be phoning their counselors quite regularly about the excessive amount of
That's
ticketing
okay.
that's occurred.
Because that would happen for the first month or so, and then those calls would stop because people would stop parking on the road.
Through the chair, I don't believe that there's a lot of people, and I think through the feedback that a lot of people park on the street because they have no other options.
I agree. And that kind of ties in with the the look that you're having with the median or the boulevard policy, is that one coming back in June?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, so after we see that in June, that should hopefully, hoping that that will help alleviate some of the on-street parking for the people that it's respectfully not council's problem that people have too many cars. But we need to look at a solution to, one, if we allow the widening of the driveways a little bit, that should help. But again, there will always be those that have, 8 cars and 2-car parked driveway, and that's not, that shouldn't mean everybody else is inconvenienced because people are parking all up and down their streets. So we need, to me, I think we need a way to address that. I would like to see what it would cost. Would it be a lot of work to put together the numbers on what it would cost to have proactive enforcement?
Through the chair, I would just need to know exactly what council's direction would be for us to go look at, if it was completely a proactive enforcement, townwide, and the expectation of what council's ticketing process would be, so I would need to know that. Do we want to cover the town in a 5-day window, a 10-day window, a 15-day window?
What do you mean?
Right now, for the 3 AM to 6 AM enforcement, we're on about a 10-day cycle based on our staffing levels
Oh,
to
so you
hit
pick
certain streets.
areas?
And we switch those around so residents can't get comfortable on our, but if we got told we want the town covered in a 5-day window, we would have to staff that with vehicles. We'd have to make sure that we have the staff on board. Even where we would put staff right now would be part of that resource budget and coming back to council, is right now we're bursting at the seams, so.
It's big.
Okay, let me think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. Regional Councillor Sterling Lee.
As a follow-up to the mayor's question on the tow trucks, how long is the contract for the tow company? Is it a year, 3 years?
The one we're proposing is a 3-year.
And then you had mentioned that if we were to investigate by your own tow truck, it would involve a full, staff report. How long would that staff report take? If you were to approximate the time?
I'm gonna guess probably around a 5-month window.
Right. Because I don't disagree, especially our winters seem to be getting harsher, and it should be, I think, investigated for us to look into, get our own tow truck, because, there are certain streets that couldn't get plowed on a timely basis because of the actions of a few selfish individuals, so. I think next GGC, either Mayor Collier or I could put forth that motion to instruct staff to look into tow times. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Just
Mr. Hannan?
through the chair, just on that, we also worry about the backside of that as well, that people need somewhere to go to pick up their vehicles. They need to show identification. There's a whole release process. And then there's a whole requirement, so that's gonna involve where we're gonna look in locations for storing, pickups.
But other municipalities would have, through the chair, other municipalities would have similar issues, no?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any
Oh,
other
fair enough.
municipality
Okay.
that organizes their own tows.
Okay. And just, sorry, through the chair, this could be funded through the gas tax, through the director of finance?
Through the chair, I would suggest no, that wouldn't be suitable funding, there's no asset involved with that.
The trucks,
The truck itself,
right, we'd have to buy the truck.
but it's not performing a service that's creating any capacity through the federal gas tax that it normally would. I would urge you to consider that the liability issues of us running our own tow service would be substantial. All from the towing, the storing, damage to vehicles, the liability would be quite extensive for the town.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rob Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hannan, you mentioned $500,000 in annual revenue from the tickets on the streets. Does that just go to cost recovery, or does that appear somewhere? Is that accurate? The number, 500,000 you said?
It is 500,000 and
Yeah, Director String.
So through the chair, that is a budget line, so we use that as a revenue line to offset the taxes necessary to be collected.
On the operating side?
On the operating side, yeah.
Thank you.
Shane Baker.
Just to the question of the tow trucks, this was a conversation I had with Derek as well as Nicole early on when we were talking about winter maintenance and so on. suggestion would be that, let us get through a winter season and see how we do with the contractor now that we have one that's secured for us before we actually, based on all the liabilities and so on that are involved in your own tow truck. My suggestion would be, let's see how we make it with our contractor first, and then if council's not satisfied, then we can have some.
Just from a timeline point of view, through the chair then, so we would get through the season by March. It would take 5 months for the report, brings us to about August. That's you're saying 5 months for a report on getting our own tow truck service. I guess what I'm suggesting is there any harm in doing the numbers, crunching the numbers earlier so that we just have them ready?
I'm just trying to save workload on myself.
Yeah, no, I understand, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mayor Collier.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Just, I was gonna follow up on something Councilor Lee said about I'm not convinced we have to own one. I get all the, and thanks for refreshing my memory on all the extras that would come along with all the other requirements. I think that makes it almost non-effective. But to the parking and to the towing, I fully expect this to pay for itself. You know, I would not expect the cost for the contract for the tow trucks to cost us anything. I would expect it to actually be a revenue generating tool. And probably a very effective one, but I would say also the same for parking. If we do need other vehicles, other staff, other whatever to do proactive parking, I would expect that would be cost neutral, if not cost positive. Your thoughts, Mr. Henry? If we're already making $500,000 on parking just being reactive.
Through the chair, absolutely, but there are a lot of costs that are associated with enforcement. So it's not a dollar for dollar. It's not a $38 profit every time we issue a ticket. But yes, there would be revenue increased with that staffing requirement too, but there would also be the cost of having those staff on duty as well.
See, I look at this to the on-street parking pilot, which I thought should have been a fee for service, but it's not. But I recognize during that we are going to, like, if we're going to issue a permit, you need to obviously have somebody checking on that permit or checking on that vehicle, otherwise what's the point of getting a permit? And that would have a cost. So, I mean, I don't know if I want to wait till February to see that back in. Can we get an interim report perhaps to that?
Through the chair, the problem that comes in is that the permit system that we have now is a temporary use permit that's free to the residents to do things like bring a bin in to do a roof repair or a driveway repair, or when Aunt Sally comes from out of town to get a permit to park on the street. That's the purpose of the system we're using now. If we brought in a permanent parking system, that is one that we would have to cost about where permits are issued, they're actively being enforced. That would involve a whole study, so we could begin that anytime.
Right.
But the direction from council was, when the temporary parking permitting system was, that we would not discuss the permanent one until the year trial was done for this one.
Okay. And just a note on that. That was the spirit of the pilot project, was that people would use it for visitors. And I'm sure some use it for that, but there's also a large amount that use it just for their extra cars that they have for 12 free days per car per year.
Through the chair, that was staff's report, that 90% of all tickets issued in Ajax are issued to the Ajax residents, not to visitors or outside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair.
Hannan. Regional Councillor Marlene Crawford.
Go ahead. I'm really old. Go ahead.
I'll move the
Yes.
report.
Yes.
No, go ahead. Really good question.
Councillor Lisa
I just have
Bauer.
one question, thank you.
Oh.
You remember?
No, go.
Okay,
Don't
so I'm just
forget.
looking at the initial response times for various complaints, and I'm just wondering, does cannabis fit in here with any of the response times, or is this a bylaw that would include complaints about cannabis?
So through the chair, cannabis is not a bylaw level response.
Okay.
It would be, if it was being smoked illegally, that would be a police response that would go to that. Our response on our waterway, dealing with the region, also has a tobacco enforcement people. We would be dealing with that where we were on site to deal with it. The response time and the police have also stated that if it's somebody actively engaged in whether it's smoking, vaping, or marijuana within an area, the response times are not going to be there anyhow, because chances are by the time anybody gets there, the individual will be gone. But during the summer, during peak time, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, we have staff on the waterfront that would also, and no different with marijuana use as we do with liquor use. Although it's not our responsibility, we would proactively deal with those issues when people are in violation of the new regional no smoke plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to attempt again with Regional Councilor Marilyn Crawford.
Remember.
Having a senior
Okay,
moment.
so between the short and the old jokes, so the tow truck thing is new. When do we start advertising this to warn people?
So through the chair, the tow truck thing is not new. We've probably this winter towed at least 70 vehicles.
70, really?
Absolutely, with them being parked
Must have been in my
illegally,
ward.
interfering with the snow. It's not instantaneous. It's follow up and see that the plows, I mean, we only have staffing to deal with certain things. But this new proactive initiative that we're gonna be using about interfering and coming out with the agreement with the tow truck, we would be looking for within 45 minutes of having a vehicle removed that's parked
So
interfering.
that's new, the proactive,
Yes,
not the
but we
reactive.
tow vehicles regularly that are parked interfering in traffic or interfering in snow.
So no notification.
Well, we would work through communications and do a whole plan.
Okay.
This is a new initiative. We're also looking at posting additional signs where we usually have heavy vehicles on residential subdivisions. We're looking to add additional signage warning people about winter enforcement in effect.
Ms.
So there'll be a
Bridgman?
whole communication
Oh, sorry.
plan.
Thank you.
Ms.
Mr. Chairman,
Bridgman.
Councilor Crawford, we have been in discussions with communications in regards to setting up a new process around the winter events and how to manage those going forward. So staff over the summer will be creating that program, what it looks like from a communication standpoint, and pushing that out to the residents on all the various social media, and have some signage up as well, because we understand that with the proactive approach, it might take residents by surprise. However, we know who the offenders are in town, as you know. But we really just need to reiterate kind of our process and what's involved, and education is a big component to that as well. So that is something that we're working with communications.
Can we add the tow truck to the plow maps so I can see my car?
Yeah, move your car.
And the little blue line?
Thank you, Ms. Bridgman. Are there any further comments or questions to this item?
Motion.
Mayor Collier, would you like to move?
Why is it
All
right?
I would love to.
You have to, yes. That's what I have. He has to move it. He told it.
He
No?
doesn't have to.
Well, you don't get to.
But I would like to.
You would like to.
Well, I would like to as well,
I want to
And so-
too.
just for the record.
I said it first.
Mayor Collier has moved this item. All those in favor? Any opposed?
I move most of the
Recommendation carried.
I'm opposed to all
It's
this.
carried. Okay, behave yourself. We're moving on to discussion items. Item 5.1, Riverside Drive, review of proposed bike lanes. Mr. Grieve, you may address the committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Exhausted.
Yeah, no, sorry. That
He
was-
knows
that
he's
was-
about to get it.
He hates me.
Thank you, Chair.
Light the fire.
So the report before you, Chair and members of the committee, is the staff's response to the motion
Me.
from Councillor Crawford in March, at the end of March of this year. So it is a review of the proposed bike lanes, and ultimately our recommendation that the council reaffirm that decision to install bike lanes on Riverside Drive. Answering questions.
Regional Councilor Crawford.
My favorite guy. I would like to make an amendment to that motion to, can I do that right now?
So just for point of order, it depends on what it is. Because if it's an amendment, it may have to be a reconsideration of a previous council decision.
Okay. I'll just say it and you can tell me what you want to do with it.
Okay.
I want to make a motion to go with the recommendation on figure 3. My only question on this motion is it says Riverside Drive curb to curb cross section with on-street parking. Is that all of Riverside Road or the section from Fox Trot, which is where I was looking from?
So the section that's considered in this report is from Rosslyn Road south, approximately 250 meters, which is just south of Foxtrot.
Okay,
So there are, if you look at figure 5, the areas highlighted in green on the west side of the road would be the areas that would be permitted parking.
Okay.
South of that last section, we would institute the bike lanes as previously proposed,
For bike lanes.
as per the current design.
Right, okay. I would like to make an amendment to go with the suggestion of figure 3. Or is it figure 5? Figure 5, figure 5 I want.
Require a motion to consider?
The direction that I received was that anything that is changing a previous decision of council does require a motion to reconsider.
Okay, so we need a motion to consider.
Then I would like to make a motion to reconsider.
Yeah, that's first.
I have another question.
And I won't talk about it again.
First time.
After this.
That's a lie. Right. So through the chair, do we have an approximate number of how many people bike now up Riverside?
Me,
1.
I do.
2.
No, just
Through the chair.
To staff.
I don't have that count at the moment. The most
Doesn't
recent
count
count
it.
that was conducted in the spring of this year was of vehicles only,
right.
just for the evaluation purposes. But as described in this report, we would expect that there is some volume. It is the preferred route or the signed route of the Trans-Canada Trail.
Okay.
So cyclists coming from our waterfront headed north to the Greenbelt route travel this section of road. So it is an important connection, but as per exact numbers, I don't have that at this moment.
I,
Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. I guess to Ms. Bridgman and maybe Mr. Meredith to fill in the blanks, because this is from before, but I, of course, support cycling, but I really want us to go forward, and I asked this question, Mr. Grieve, at council last week, or at CAP meeting last week, about having sidewalk one side, asphalt trail the other, to get the bikes off the road. And you said that going forward, that was our focus.
Through the chair, yeah, on regional roads, that generally is the focus. For this section specifically, that design was proposed initially, and through public consultation and feedback received from residents, the design was changed and the multi-use path on the west side of the road was removed in exchange for 2 on-road cycling, or on-road bike lanes as currently proposed.
Okay, but at the same time, and this is where we'll probably go to Dave, or Catherine, there was talk of a trail to the rear of the houses on the west side, up the Duffys. And there was some issues with a couple of residents, and I think we were working with TRCA. Where are we on that? Whoever can answer.
Through the chair to Mayor Collier, you are correct. There are 2 properties north of the existing development that does impede the ability to construct an off-road trail. It is part of our long-term plans. At this point in time, the property owners have no interest in disposing of or selling the property. In the event that they do, and subject to the approval of the Conservation Authority, there is the ability to continue an off-road trail connection. To say it would be within 5 years, I think it would be probably outside that time.
Well, let me ask, obviously there's a setback from the environmental features, so they can't build right to the back of their property. They can't even fence right to the back of their property, don't they, can they?
They can.
Can they? Have they?
I haven't been out on site to see how far the fencing extends.
Can we expropriate those pieces?
The town obviously does have expropriation powers. Whether they would utilize it for this would be subject to further consideration of a report by staff and a decision of council. It's not something that is typical of expropriation.
But that trail section was part of our plan at some point, wasn't it? Transportation master plan, or the?
Yeah, the transportation master plan actually does identify this section as dedicated bike lanes on Riverside Drive. There is the long-term ability to shift that off-road, but that's subject to further acquisition or in another scenario, should those lands develop, there could be easements that are required to allow for the construction of the trail as opposed to actual acquisition.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to reconsider?
Yes, but we can ask questions on the
We're
motion to
talking-
reconsider.
Right.
So my questions on the motion to reconsider. Because before we overturn the past decision, I just wanted to go over a bit of the history on where we've gone with this for those that weren't part of it. But this has always been a bit of a contentious area, and it's a bit of NIMBYism as well. Once the residents got in there, it's like, well, we don't want this in front of our house, but we have to look out for the, all the residents. I think there's a solution, and I like figure 3 solution on here, so I would support a motion to reconsider. Thank you.
Regional Councillor Joanne Dines.
Thank you. So, Mr. Grease, here, I guess my concern is that it's hooked up to the Trans-Canada Trail. So we anticipate we're gonna get more cyclists. So when you put in a safe cycling route, do you generally see an increase in the numbers that use it?
Through the chair, yes, generally you expect, with more separation, so most separation is an off-road facility. The next level of separation is a dedicated space, such as a bike lane. The least separation is a shared facility. So generally, you expect the more separation provided to a cyclist, the higher percentage of users that would feel comfortable using that facility, and therefore would be a greater number using the facility. So you would expect more would feel comfortable in a bike lane scenario in this consideration than a shared facility.
And I take it the connection isn't very far from where we're talking about,
The connection to,
to the trail, it's just across the road, is it not?
there is a off-road trail behind Standardville.
Right.
The current direction of the Trans-Canada Trail actually is to use Rosslyn Road, and you head east on the multi-use path on Rosslyn Road.
So there are, and this goes back to what Mayor Collier was saying, that there was discussion about behind these houses a trail that connects, I guess, to the one that I'm thinking of across the road and eventually to Trans-Canada.
Correct. So through the chair, there was the desire for that connection behind the
Right.
houses. There is the property ownership. There's also a top of slope issue that needs to be confirmed with TRCA, so that those lands, there is slope behind those houses. So staff haven't confirmed that a 3-meter path would actually fit behind those
So that would
those
be
homes.
under TRC's jurisdiction, is that?
TRC would be working with town staff and through operations and Andrew Jackson, who's our trails coordinator.
So just one other question too. With this figure 3, you're going to have, am I looking at the right one? So you're gonna have, parking on the side of the road, and then the rest of the road is shared between cars and cyclists. So now you have, and I mean, as a cyclist, you tend to wanna stay to the right of the shared road. So now you have parked cars that you're in danger of doors or kind of thing. So you not only have a shared road problem, but you have a parking issue as well.
Correct. So
Which are hazards.
Yeah, so the cross-section that's shown us in figure 3 is a 2.5-meter parking space on the west side of the road, and then 2 3.75-meter travel lanes. It's recommended that the share row, which is generally in a shared facility, a share row is a direction not only to the cyclists but to motorists that they are there. We recommend that the share row be placed in the middle of the travel lane to encourage cyclists to travel in the middle of the travel lane, but it does not guarantee that they do, and there is the potential for dooring of southbound cyclists if they travel too close to those parked cars.
And so, I guess, is this issue due to the lack of parking for the new development on the east side? Is there a perception of lack of parking?
Through the chair, I believe the motion was raised due to the lack of parking for the residents fronting Riverside. I do not believe the motion or the genesis of the motion came from
Okay.
residents within that new subdivision.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Regional Councilor Marilyn Crawford.
Yeah, I don't see, Cheryl's are all over the place. So on Delaney, you can park and you're gonna have to go around the car if the car is parked, regardless of where the Cheryl is. So I don't really see this as being a new issue as far as parking on the street where you actually bike to. And it's really for such a short section of this particular road that I really don't see it, and I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, that, that this will be used a lot. This is, I don't know, I could be wrong. There's parking, suppose people will use it. I appreciate, I appreciate this report. I really do appreciate the fact that you've come back with options, and, I'm hoping that I get the support for the reconsideration.
Yes,
She's done.
you're done. Councilor Rob, Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I think being the local councillor and visiting the area with Regional Councillor Crawford, you know, nobody's going to ask us where are the bike lanes, but they are going to ask us where's the parking. And I'm in favor of figure 3, and I understand that, John, you guys have a mandate, you know, for the Canada Trail, and I'm not discounting that. But something's got to give and something's got to hold. And I think that parking is definitely a more immediate concern. It is a more immediate concern, and hopefully we can get the Canada Trail, we can get it all in eventually. So that's why I'll be supporting.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Catherine. The development that's happening on the north side of Roslyn Road, and that actually really impedes, well, Roslyn Road itself impedes getting across a road. If you try to get across a road at any time, it's super busy now trying to get across the road on a bike or walking through 4 lanes. And I already know we've got plans for the light there in 2020, I think, is when it's scheduled. When is the development on the other side gonna be done?
Through the chair to Council Crawford, development falls under planning. Sorry, but I know that
No,
they
it's
started
fine.
the construction last year, so it should be completed by the end of
There's
this
something
year.
happening on the other side, right across the road on Roslyn, from Riverside, because I know, I've been up there already biking, and it's, like I said, it's difficult to get across the trail connection. It's easier just to follow Roslyn Road up and around, but.
They'll probably during the 2020 season in line with the timing for the installation of the signals as well. But we're gonna be another year and a half probably to get everything complete.
Okay, thank you. Because I think that'll encourage more people to go up there, if you can safely cross over Roslyn Road to get to the trail connection.
Councilor Bauer?
Thank you, Chair. So, thank you for the list. So I just want to confirm that the parking that's being illustrated in figure 5 is just for a section of Riverside. And then you said that the remaining part of Riverside, there will be the bike lane, is that right? Would Cheryl for a little bit and then bike lane for the rest of it?
So through the chair, yes, that's correct. That's what we're proposing in figure 5, and that on-street parking and the reconfiguration as shown in figure 3 is for that section displayed in figure 5, and then south of this section, we would retain the proposed bike lanes.
And the section in green is about 250 meters, I think it said in your report, correct?
Yeah, the section shown in figure 5 is approximately 250 meters. Those sections in green are where on-street parking would be permitted, based on location of driveways and setbacks from intersections as required.
Okay. And there's no, currently there's not a lot of parking around here, is there? And forgive me for not showing your board.
So I don't think so.
There's only parking with golf courses, but that's considered private.
Yeah, so through the chair, there's no on-street parking currently proposed, because as part of the reconstruction of Riverside Road, the on-road bike lanes were the preferred design. The installation of on-road bike lanes requires no parking. So those signs were installed last fall, slightly prematurely because the line painting wasn't put in. But through discussions and operations, that line painting was scheduled to take place this summer, and therefore those bike lanes would be put in and act accordingly with the no parking signage that already exists.
Thank you.
Any other further questions? Oh, yes, Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the diagram, figure 5, on the west side, at the bottom of, on the south end of the picture, there's a vacant lot, which is, I think, the staging area right now for construction. Equipment and vehicles.
On the east side or the west side?
West side.
The west, that's a private property owner.
Where's the, there is parking?
So where the last house is, that vacant piece, that's private property?
Through trade, yes, I believe that's one of those two properties described that we would need if we were to do a rear lot solution. That's one of the two undeveloped properties at this time, or they are developed, a single family home is there, but they haven't been included in either the redevelopment to the north or the previous redevelopment to the south.
I guess through you to Ms. Bridgen, where do we keep, or sorry, through the chair, Ms. Bridgen, where do we keep the construction vehicles now? I thought it was that. Where are they using for their staging area?
There's a parking lot just south of the townhouse complex across from Riverside Health.
Okay, so, I'll bring up my Google map and see if I can see it that way. Across from the townhouse development.
South of the townhouse,
On the west or east side?
on the west side.
On the west side, that little parking area?
Yes.
That's actually the trailhead as well.
That's the trailhead.
Yeah, I see that. That's too far away. Okay. I was thinking potentially that vacant lot, I thought we owned it. For potential parking completely off-road.
Too far.
Which one?
I'll do the reminder now.
Riverside.
Yes.
Any motion?
Hold on, this is the country.
Yes, but not the vacant property here. Yeah, no, I know, yes.
So we don't own that,
We don't own that. We own the parking lot as described by.
Let's do it, let's start. Just
which is
work our way down.
fair ways down.
Correct.
It's not reasonable to expect people to park there for those houses up.
Thank you.
Okay, well, there goes that idea, thank you.
Call the vote.
So, any other comments, questions? Okay. There is a recommendation within the staff report that the committee can discuss the recommendation. However, any motion other than that listed in the report will require a motion to reconsider previous decisions of council, which requires a 2/3 majority vote, 5 to pass.
You have it.
That's
on the
reconsider.
table.
Okay, so, do we get a mover first?
Marilyn.
Do you need a seconder for
So-
reconsideration?
Marilyn
We'll
Crawford
need a
moves it.
second.
You need a seconder?
No secondary, GGC.
For motion to reconsider.
I would second it,
Okay.
110%.
Tyler?
I'll let Joe Meals help me.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey,
Thanks, guys.
We haven't done anything.
Thank you.
So
I
that-
don't love it.
We're gonna think about it.
It's something
think
though,
about it.
it's something.
Being open-minded,
So now can I make another motion?
yes.
I'd like to make a motion to consider, figure 3. Do I need to say figure 5 too?
Yeah,
Does
because
it figure?
that defines the location.
Okay, so figure 3 and figure 5 on the Riverside between Fox Trot
And is 4 the same, is 3, 4, and 5 all the same, just different renderings?
Yes.
They're not options, yeah, it's all
Yeah.
visually showing the same thing.
3, 4, and 5 is the same.
Okay, this is very confusing. I'm gonna make a motion that we make on-street parking on the west side of Riverside between Foxtrot and Roslyn Road and make the bike lane Sherrills between that same section. Which
Parking.
basically says figure 3, 4, 5.
Parking as in figure 5.
So we can ask a question about it, right?
Yeah.
So I just have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So
Proceed.
this part of the connection, so the trail parts that the bike lanes are meant to connect are also walkable, right? So residents can come, and if there's parking there, that allows them to park and jump on the trail at those spots?
Trail is quite a
For
bit
3
long.
hours.
for 3 hours.
So you'll walk
I haven't been that part of the trail. I'm just making sure that we're servicing the cyclists and the residents who might want to park there and go for a little walk. So it will allow for that visit to the trail as well.
I don't think they
If
consider
if somebody
it's
wants to park there
yes.
and wants to make the walk, they can do it there, which currently they cannot. Correct?
She wants it for the residents, but
Okay,
yes.
no, I'm just, thank you, I
There's the
was
path.
just wondering.
There is a parking lot
Marilyn's like,
conveniently
no,
located at the
absolutely not.
trailhead. though.
Pardon me?
There is a parking lot conveniently located at the
Bike
trailhead.
rack?
Yeah, no, I support the motion, I just was wondering.
You have them for active.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
so I'll call the vote on this.
There's no other comment.
Are there any other comments? Mayor Collier, comments?
I just want to speak to it quickly. This has been a bit of a contentious issue all the way through. I think this is an interim compromise. It's not something I want to see permanently. I want at the same time, I'm hoping staff will continue to investigate a way to get a trail up through there, whether it's behind, whether it's Riverside Golf Course. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm hoping that we can continue to work towards that goal. And hopefully, when we are able to make that trail connection, we go back to what's originally intended. Because again, we don't want to be promoting on-street parking. We just had that discussion, which is what it will be. But, so in the interim, I'm hoping in the next 5 years or so, we're able to find a permanent solution which takes the cyclists off the road through a multi-use trail. Thank you.
Regional Councillor Joanne Dice.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't support this motion. I did give it a lot of thought back and forth, because I do, you know, you want to find a solution in new development that works for everybody. But I think for me, the difference here is it's something we've worked with in this town to support these different modes of transportation. As you know, across North America, that is the trend, to get people out of their cars and get them to do different things, different ways. And as it's part of the Trans-Canada Trail Connection as well, which is something many municipalities are working on across Ontario, I think it's really important that we make it as safe a route as possible. Thank you.
I'd like to better define the motion if it's possible, because I know that was very confusing for you, so can you just erase all that? No, because I have it here
I
better.
know, but procedurally, can you?
Can I do that?
I don't
Okay,
think
never
we
mind.
can.
It's on the
Alright,
floor right
never
now.
mind. I just want to speak
You
to.
can make a motion to amend.
No, it's not necessary, I don't think. I think I basically made it a complicated motion, but it says the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
You want to hear it first
No.
and then decide?
No. I just wanted
Do you
to
wanna
speak to, huh?
What is the intent of your motion? Do you want to maybe read that, so perhaps is it changing the actual?
No, it's not changing
Through
anything,
the
it's
chair.
just saying it better.
Through the chair, if it's clear, I believe that
Friendly amendment.
we already have a motion that was submitted that was spelled out by Director Meredith. Is that the one you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Okay, yeah, we have.
We have
You
the
have that,
essence
right?
of that. We will
It's the
ensure
same
that
thing,
that
right?
goes in.
It just says it better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you reread it?
I can tell you.
Can
The
we-
council authorizes staff to implement Riverside curb-to-curb cross-section detailed within Figure 3 of the staff report at the locations referred to within Figure 5, detailing the locations of permanent on-street parking. Well, because I couldn't find it.
That's exactly what you said. What are you talking about?
It
Chair.
says,
Yes.
no, wait, I want to,
No, when you-
I just want to speak, can I just speak to something?
Yes, you may.
I just wanted to speak about Councillor Dye's comments about safety. I think that that changing bike lane from a bike lane to a share-all, it no more confuses bicyclists or creates an unsafe place, because I believe honestly that it's such a short section of Riverside that we're not going to see as much on-street parking as we would on streets such as Delaney, which has share-alls, Ravenscroft, which has share-alls. They all have share-alls, and I bike on all of those too. So I think that this does not actually create a safety issue in this particular area. And the upper part of Riverside have hard bike lanes, and that is a very safe area to go. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point.
on that.
That's it? Councillor Tyler Moore?
As per Councillor Dyes' comments, I echo what Mayor Collier said, that ultimately, I think we all agree, we want this fixed. We want this to be the Trans-Canada Trail friendly, we want it to be parking friendly. So it's not like we're banning one for the other, just I think it's a case of prioritizing one before the other. Right now is prioritized for the trail. We're saying we prioritize the parking for the residents, but still continue to get to the Canada Trail, Trans-Canada Trail as quickly as possible. So it all flows definitely into different forms of transportation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other further comments or questions? Should I call the vote on this motion at this point?
We should.
Okay. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? Councillor Dyce opposed. Motion is carried. Right.
Way to go.
We now have presentations. First presentation is item 6.1, financial assistance and affordable access to recreation programs.
So
Well-
if I may just make a few comments of introduction.
Yes.
So we have joining us Amanda Beasley here. So they're here really to speak to you about what our current approach is to affordable access.
Sorry, I didn't get their names clearly.
Amanda Bedwell and Louise Soliak.
Okay.
So they're basically going to speak to you a little bit about our philosophies of affordable access and the ways that we have in recreation and culture look to ensuring that our residents can participate with dignity, with respect, in an easy way in our programs, regardless of their ability to pay. They're going to give you a high-level overview. Certainly we're looking, if you have any comments, any questions, we're happy to take them throughout the presentation. And this is for your information. I know that council often gets questions when you're out and about. We wanted to ensure that you had all the information about what has been done and what is being done in the area of affordable access.
Amanda and Louise, welcome. Please proceed.
So as far back as 1980, the town has offered financial assistance. Certainly we've evolved over the years. The application form can be found online, or customers come to our front counters and they can apply there. Once they have been approved, they can register for whatever programs they like online through ActiveNet. Certainly, I think in the last couple of years, we've really made a big effort on ensuring that our frontline staff are properly trained and have a really good understanding, empathetic to customers that come in, and certainly, treating all the customers as we expect with dignity. The town is a member of ARD, which is Advancing Affordable Access to Recreation in Durham Region, and that's a committee that was formed in 2012. There are municipal partners across Durham, as well as different service clubs like Grandview, Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc. Amanda and I attend those meetings quarterly. And certainly from those meetings, once a year, there's a region-wide training session, and we encourage and invite our staff to attend those as well. And we also have affordable access as an agenda item on our CSR meetings. And certainly the last part I think that's worth mentioning is that the town was involved with a partnership with the Durham School Board in writing a local poverty reduction grant, and it's a 3-year grant, and it really looks at priority neighbors within Durham and working with families that are on Ontario Works and trying to get them involved in fact.
This is an international poverty snapshot. It's based on the 2016 Canadian statistics data. And the town's financial assistance structure and partnerships address those populations that you see are most in need. And this offers a comparison of the town of Ajax to the Durham region for 2 poverty measures. LIM AT, that stands for the low income measure after tax. It uses a median adjusted after tax income accounting for household size. And LICO AT stands for low income cutoff after tax, which is a fixed amount based on household size. Families who are living below the LICO spend at least 20% more of their after tax income on food, shelter, and clothing, and thus leaving less for incidentals, including recreation.
34% discount. So this is the one where customers come to our front counter. They bring their notice of assessment, their current notice of assessment. They fill the form out and they leave it with our customer service representatives. Those notices then are given to Amanda, or she's not there, myself, and we base it on LECO, so the lower income cutoff. So an example would be if you're a family of 4, your income, so 2 adults, 2 children, the cutoff's about 40,000. If you're a single mother or a single parent with 1 child, the cutoff is 27,000. So we would assess their application form and a notice of assessment, and once they're approved, everything's done by email. We send them a notice. The account is set up so that when the customer comes to the counter, everything is already set up. They just register, or they can register online. The other part is the 50%. So anyone that's on Regional Ontario Works or disability, automatically they bring their paperwork to the counter. There's no wait. Whoever the staff person is on the desk processes their application, and they get 50% off. So these are just the stats over the last couple of years. We average about 500 participants a year, and this is the costing of what the funding that the town pays for the 34% and 50% discounts, the offset.
We also offer something called our Fair Pass, our Financial Assistance and Recreation Pass, which gives free access to our drop-in programs for 1 week every quarter, and it's offered to all residents who are on our 34 or 50% financial assistance program. We also extend this pass to families who apply for the 34% discount, but who don't qualify because their threshold is their income is above our threshold. However, because they've expressed financial difficulty, we offer them this pass as well. And for our older adults and seniors, we have a variety of programs for our 55+ clientele, which are offered at a special reduced rate. This selection of programs, which is dedicated to older adults, launched in 2018 as a result of the Older Adults Seniors Recreational Service Strategies. Programs include arts, dance, fitness, and languages. These Senior 65+ program numbers reflect registered programs only. Drop-in numbers are not included. And popular drop-in programs for our 55 or 65+ clientele are Aquafit and Pickleball. And the 50% and 34% financial assistance is also applied to our discounted rates for seniors who qualify.
This is an additional amount of money that families can receive. So if you have children between 4 and 17, you've already qualified for the 34% or the 50%. Jumpstart will give you an extra 25% off. And so one class per season.
And we have our Grade 5 Action Pass. Grade 5 Action Pass. This was first introduced in 2007 in Durham Region. The City of Kingston actually started this program a year or 2 earlier. The pass is distributed through the Durham School Board and then brought into a community center for activation. And why Grade 5 was specifically chosen was that in Canada, 93% of children 5 to 11 years old are not physically active for 60 minutes each day, which is the Canadian minimum. As elementary school students progress into high school, statistically their physical activity tends to decline. And the objective of this program is to offer barrier-free physical activity options so that children recognize the benefits of being active prior to this onset of decline. And this will hopefully translate into a lifelong behavior of an active lifestyle.
And so this is what we refer to as a voucher, and so it's given to clients through the region, and it allows them to have 1 free program and 2 free camp weeks per session. And the region's just started keeping stats in 2017, but I think the big change that we saw, or the big improvement for the clients, is that in 2017, the region used to subsidize 50% of the camps. They started subsidizing 100%. Yeah. So these are numbers that we recoup back from the region.
We also have a childcare partnership with the region, and the region provides subsidized childcare through our summer camp programs here at the town of Ajax. These clients do meet a certain criteria with the region to be approved. Then depending on the parent's income, they may have to pay a nominal daily rate for their camps. Most children that qualify attend camp for the entire summer, which is 9 weeks long. And this program, as you can see, is increasing every year along with the funding, and it's been integral into the growth of our summer camp programs here at the town of Ajax.
And this is just a flyer that our combined staff created, and we have it online, and we have it at all encounters, and Amanda has them here to pass out. And it was so well received at the art committee that a lot of municipalities have now done the same thing. So basically, all that we've just reviewed, the 34, the bookmark, or sorry, the vouchers, the 50%, all of that information is there. So if somebody comes to the counter, and I guess the other thing that Amanda and I have had as well is if there's new Canadians that come to the counter and they don't have their notice of assessment, they just come, we give them the discount for 34%, we set their account up, and we just let them know, come back in a year when you have a notice of assessment. Do Amanda and I make exceptions? Absolutely we do. There are some families that come in that have unique stories, and certainly, we don't want that to be a barrier for families not being able to be involved in programs, so obviously exceptions are made. And then after we did this one, the next one Amanda's going to talk to, we based it on the same format that's available at the counters as well, and that is more of Durham region-wide. And so these two pieces go together, and Amanda's going to tell you about this one.
So the region had created a financial empowerment community champions working group to explore the concepts of improving the financial situation of low-income people and determining how to build it into an organization's capacity and how to refer the clients to the financial resources. So we are on this working group along with Oshawa and Whitby. And what we did was adapt the income support tool that's used by the public health department into the tool that you see here, and like Louise said, I have the handout for you as well. And we've entitled that Making the System Easier to Navigate. And we proudly designed this tool, the town of Ajax did. And as well, Louise mentioned earlier, along with that committee and our that we sit on the Advancing Affordable Access to Recreation Durham Region. There was a training in January, and we sent 12 staff to that training, and a large part of that agenda was training staff on financial empowerment and how to use this resource with our various clientele.
And the nice thing is once we develop this, each municipality is using it with their own logo. And so it's great Durham-wide that we're sending that consistent message out, and it's been marketed the same way, so that when customers come to the counter, regardless where they're from, it helps them not be a different municipality. And then the last thing that we started, we do get customers come to our front counter and they want to shower. And so what we've done now is we've set aside specific times. We just started this the end of January. We've set aside specific times during the day at different centers for dignity, where there's nobody in there and they just go in and there's no charge. And we've actually set this up in our system, so we'll actually have numbers to report on, so that we can ensure that whether it needs to be expanded, if the times are convenient. This is what people are asking for, because we certainly don't want to turn anyone away. So this is well used.
So this was in response to what we're seeing as an increase in the pervasive issue of homelessness in Ajax, as well as those who might be couch surfing or with precarious housing as well. So not having anywhere safe where they could access a shower. So that was something we were definitely seeing in our front counters and in our facilities. And we looked at how could we manage this in a way that afforded the individual's dignity, privacy, didn't impede or impact on our members when they were in at set times. So it was a bit of a balance in figuring out how does this respect the dignity of everyone involved, and how do we ensure that it's consistent. So if I'm coming to you, I don't need to be embarrassed, because I know I can go to the ACC on Friday from 3 to 4, and I don't have to perhaps make a big deal and encounter. So it's definitely being really well received, but it was in response to what we're seeing is a fairly large increase in homelessness.
Is that it? Amanda, Louise, thank you very much for that presentation. Now, Councillor Tyler Moore has a very important question to ask you.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. In regards to the Canadian Tire Jumpstart program, how exactly does that work? Does that help the individual or the team? As in, for fees $400, does it compensate the team and now they charge the person $200? or is it by an individual basis?
So for us, how it works with us is the Jumpstart just gives the money directly towards the family of 25%. So that's fundraising that Jumpstart Canadian Tire has done. I know other municipalities, specifically Whitby, have a different relationship with Jumpstart where they'll actually do some fundraising for them and collect. We don't do that. So basically it's only for swim or registered program. So if somebody wanted to register for hockey or soccer or any of that sort of stuff, that's not us. They would have to go and look through, I think it's Boys and Girls Club where they can apply. They receive funding from them. But for us, it's just that 25% additional discount on top of something that they've already registered for.
That you would offer to an individual or a family that wanted their daughter to play soccer and didn't have enough. So it has nothing to do with our recurring, can we get the sports fees lowered?
No.
Okay, thank you so much, and that's great.
Thank you. Regional Councilor Marilyn Crawford.
I do have a very important question.
Just remember.
Didn't say it.
Just remember it.
All questions are important.
Just remember.
I love the shower, Howard. I love that idea. I think that's such an awesome program to offer. Is that somehow, is it advertised on are we actively advertising that? Is it something that is only offered when somebody asks about it, or?
So we needed to test it first,
Okay.
because we weren't sure how it was going to go. As you can imagine, when you have members who pay for their membership, and you have those who have registered programs, and you have people who they see, you know, coming in, we had to really make sure that, again, dignity, safety, was paramount. So in the beginning, it was, we knew who was coming into our facilities, who needed the support. So all of our desks had the information, our facility staff had the information. We made sure it was made available to them. We didn't actively promote it because we wanted to understand what kind of the existing need was in our facilities to ensure did we have the right time slots, did we have the right pieces in place before we started to advertise it. So you will see that ramp up, but we wanted to ensure it was successful and that we were able to manage it appropriately. We had everything in place before we wanted to walk before we ran, and we feel that that's gone well, and certainly going to look at ramping that piece up in terms of information sharing.
I love it. Something that is so taken advantage of in our own lives is not so much in
Yep.
others. So great that we're providing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Regional Councilor Joanne Ives.
Thank you. That was my question, basically. Thank you for your presentation. That was really interesting. Hopefully with those flyers for us to have a deeper look at. And just wondering with the shower issue, which is really needed, can we distribute that to some of the organizations that are already out there supporting in different ways so they have that information to pass out?
Thank you. Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder, Councilors Bauer and Dyes formed a homelessness task force that's working with a number of other community partners. Are you part of that? I would wonder if perhaps they would consider having you as part of that to give input and also see how we can work together as we try and figure out what this homeless initiative looks like, because we don't know yet. And the funding for that, whatever it looks like, once this plan is established, will come from this year's Mayor's Gala. So we kind of might as well all be working together to try and, like, that's a piece, and you have a very, very good piece there. But we have a number of other things that they're looking at, like lockers and how to plug them into the different services they need to get them back into society. So I think we should all be working together on that. Yes. Oh, sorry, Chair.
So through the chair, would be happy to understand what you would like that individual to, what sort of information. We have a couple of different staff in the department who are working on the area of affordability, access, equity in a number of different ways. So it may be that perhaps we would have a dedicated person that may or may not be Louise or Amanda, maybe someone in community development, you know, depending on what it is that would, I think, best serve your needs at that table. We'd be happy to look at what staff member would be the most appropriate, or perhaps if it's an information dissemination or sharing piece, perhaps we have an ability to rotate a few staff members through so that you know, you can get benefit of what's happening in the town. We know that some of our wonderful things that are happening are best kept secret, which is why we felt it was important to bring this presentation to council today so that you had some of the information of the great things that are happening for our residents.
So maybe Lisa and Joanne could include Tracy in the emails for the next meeting. You decide who you want to attend. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome. Ward 2 Regional Councillor, Mr. Sterling Lee.
Ooh. Yes, sir. Through the chair, thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're very
For that ramp up. Are we able to, I mean, you were talking about ramping up these services. Do we have laundry facilities on these services that we can start kind of branching out to that point, or not quite there?
Through the chair, community centers aren't equipped with things like lockers, washers and dryers. That isn't something that we offer. I know there are a number of groups. I know there's a task force with the region as well who's looking at those types of things. So where there would be opportunity for lockers, showers, laundry facilities, you know, it almost needs to be sort of hub models where there are opportunities for people to go and be safe, and perhaps services can be plugged in terms of meals, things like that. Within our current facilities, we don't really have those spaces or that infrastructure. So we're looking at, you know, I know the conversations have involved some of the not-for-profits, and the region has been looking at what opportunities they have. So stay tuned, I think, is probably the answer to that one. I think there's a number of discussions being had. At this point, I don't see it happening in our community centers, not for lack of will, but lack of space and infrastructure.
What about something as simple as a clothing drop-off? Do you think our community centers can handle that? I know, for example, ACC, they're collecting milk bags for that weaving thing. But so, do you think we have the bandwidth in your estimation to at least perhaps clothing drive, and then maybe connect some clean clothes with some of these individuals?
I think there are not-for-profits in the community that are doing
That kind of
that.
too,
That would be,
yep.
I think would be more appropriate. We're always happy to point to our not-for-profit infrastructure, be able to advocate on behalf of those organizations who are really doing great work, and be their advocate. I think that would be more appropriate for our role in that scenario.
But at least the comfort level that you have of the staff of community centers, that they have the ability to leverage this and connect the individuals, right?
So, I mean, through the chair, we're really focusing on, and Amanda spoke briefly to it, is how do we become, you know, Ajax is part of this table around being advocates for financial empowerment, and in looking at all of the resources that are available. It's really hard to navigate. So how do we as staff at the front desk, how do we speak to that? How do we answer questions? How do we share resources? So it's really trying to equip our customer service representatives with the most information they can possibly retain at any given moment, with great documents, great files, because they get all kinds of questions. But what we never want to happen is someone to come to our front desk with a question that we can't help them with. So our goal is how do we help you? And it may not be the town of Ajax, but it's how do we point you to the right person who can help you, and how do we do that in a manner that's dignified and easy.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Councillor Lisa Barr.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you. I think it's a very professional show of compassion from our town, and we strive to serve everyone in Ajax. And I think it shows a lot of leadership, and you know, we all strive to be leaders in everything we do. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Any further comments or questions from the members? Seeing none, I'd like a mover to receive for information. Moved by Councillor Lee. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're now moving into a closed session portion of today's agenda. I need a motion to convene in closed session to discuss. Motion by RT.
Got mine in. I know how you feel now.
No.
I know how you feel.
Now
The
we can
meeting
have-
is now back
Do you
in
wanna bring
open
Dave?
session.
Now we can have Dave's update on other business.
So we can't say congratulations now?
You're also.
So we're not
Not
allowed.
according to CA.
Can I have a
Wait till it's
motion to
official.
approve the direction of resolutions
So
made in
since
closed
we've
session?
risen, is everybody okay with a conference call on the last Monday of each month at 1 o'clock?
Sorry, for what?
Is everyone, for me, just update council on all the stuff that I'm working on.
Is that,
Was it last Monday?
yeah.
Every month?
Yeah.
Last Monday of the month at
That
1
doesn't
o'clock.
mean it's quorum.
Does that speak to court? Oh,
I don't think it does, I'm not the clerk.
Oh, because
but
we're not in the
I
same
don't
room?
think since the conference calls that it's a quorum issue.
I'm hungry.
I
I
mean,
would
it's
have
not.
to look into, I think, yes, I'm okay with
Yes, I'm okay.
Unless,
Oh, it's not a
unless
meeting,
Sarah
right?
gets back to us in the contrary, let's assume it's allowed under this flag.
I thought it might be,
As long as I don't go to jail, I'm fine.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, is
I
it-
don't have the details of what
Okay.
so you're looking to host a monthly conference call?
Monthly conference call on the last Monday of every month at
Okay.
1 o'clock.
That's the same, usually typically the same way as council meeting.
Is this a public
No,
conference
the
call?
last
The last Monday of each month,
Is this a-
just with council.
Mayor's, what are we gonna call it? Mayor's
It's
conference
just,
call.
yeah, just a call, just
Call it
update.
not
Can
quorum
Ron,
call.
Not
can
quorum
our
call.
legal counsel tell us?
No.
Okay.
Can you tell us, Ron? Are we contributing to this black if we have a conference call? No. So, good. So we've sought legal opinion.
As long as you're not making any decision.
That's right. We're not making any, it's just for me to update council on what's going on.
So
That's
then
it.
we could use it to update council what we're all working on.
That's right. And I mean it to be not in camera, but not for open.
Sure.
The things we discuss are not meant to be broadcast, just to update you on things that are going on.
So we're in our homes, we're at our offices, whatever.
Sit in your pajamas, I don't care.
Okay,
Whatever you want.
On the-
Do we have to
We're not
suspend
doing
rules
Skype.
next
You still have to make sure you declare conflicts
Okay.
as well. So if you have a conflict, you can't be part of the conference call.
yep.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, Joanne, what did you?
can I have a motion to
It's
approve the
coming, Brad.
direction of resolutions made in closed session?
Motion moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? It's carries.
Thank you.
Okay, what's next?
That's all that.
Don't we have to allow him to come because he wasn't on the agenda?
Yes, so we can suspend rules of order.
Man, I'm
to-
on fire.
You are very good.
Motion to suspend rules to allow Director of Planning to address council.
Give an update.
Okay.
And I need a seconder.
Does he have?
I need a seconder.
And we need two
Those in
thirds.
favor?
I need a seconder first.
Seconding and in favor.
Second in favor, oh, we got it
What's your
done.
deal, man?
Slow down till we get it. So what are we doing?
Right?
I would never want to do that compared to Joe Neal.
Thank you.
Anything else to stop?
So now we are voting.
Okay,
on
all those in favor?
One,
Suspended rules?
2, 3, 4. Okay, we're
We're
good.
suspending the rules for
Carries.
Mr. Meredith to speak.
Okay.
Correct.
It's better be good, Dave.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to get you caught.
Thinking the same thing.
Sir, yes.
So there's two things that I just wanted to provide updates to council on. We're gonna try and do it through email, but I thought with GGC today, it's an opportunity just to express it to you verbally, and if you've got any questions, then I can answer those as well. The first is with respect to an update regarding the crap. So I think many of you recall, staff were around this table and provided an update at 2 GGC meetings ago in terms of the status of basically the phosphorus reduction action plan for the outlet, for the outfall of Lake Ontario. We were, about a month or two ago, we had met Shane and myself, Steph Anderson and Michael Sawchuk had met with representatives from the director in Rod Phillips' office. And what he had indicated, David Donovan, and what he'd indicated is his willingness to set up and sort of in response to our frustrations of actually being able to meet with the technical staff of the ministry of the environment. So, on behalf of Rod Phillips, he was able to schedule that meeting. So that meeting was important because we had meetings with the ministry before, but never with their actual technical staff. So this involved their legal representation, their scientist, Dr. Howell, and the ability to have Dr. Auer and Jennifer from our side as well. So it was the first time that we had an actual technical discussion based on science, based on the prep that the region had submitted. Again, I just wanted to provide an update that overall, we felt the meeting for the first time was well received by ministry staff. There's some good dialogue, there's some good questions. there's good questions to Dr. Auer regarding the science and the modeling that he used to draw the conclusions that we have. There wasn't anything that we presented that was contrary to anything they questioned. I think our science is sound based on what Dr. Auer has provided and Jennifer's position as far as the legal position that the town has taken. So I think the ministry would agree that sort of the work that we've done to date has been solid based on the information that's been provided. So that was good. And I think the important thing was, or our biggest takeaway is at the end of the day, they were sort of asking us what the town of Ajax was expecting the minister to decide. And we pretty simply said tertiary treatment, right? And that was a pretty quick answer. What we got, and it ended up being more of a legal discussion back and forth between our solicitor and their solicitor in terms of what they felt the minister could do as far as making a decision goes. They seem to be leaning down the path that the typical process would be for them, or for Minister Phillips to order a full EA. Or there's the ability to impose conditions. Jennifer, in our position, says we don't feel that he needs to require or request an EA, that he's got the authority to set limits, which imposes tertiary treatment, and that's well within his mandate to be able to do that. So there's going to be some follow-up discussion between our solicitor and their solicitor in terms of legal terms as it relates to the Environmental Assessment Act. But at least it was a point where there was some good conversation in terms of where they go and how the minister may make a decision. So I think a full EA is probably an easy way out for Rod. It requires a little more time and money, if that is the case. So it's not our preferred approach. Our preferred decision from the ministry's office is for them to impose limits and require some tertiary treatment. And we feel that is well within his authority to do so. So that was just an update. That was only last week that we had that meeting down at the ministry's offices in Toronto. So that was really just to keep you informed. For the first time, we actually had a good technical discussion. It got very legal. It got very scientific at times, which was great. It didn't necessarily mean a lot to us, but it did to the scientists and to the lawyers that were in the room. So that was good. So it was a good, and I think there was respect and value that the ministry felt in terms of the town's position. So we all viewed it as a positive meeting, and we'll see what happens from here.
Thank you very much.
If anyone has any questions on that? No.
Councillor Lee will be the first.
Through the chair, I thought we had an environmental assessment back in 2016, it would have been. Didn't we get one ordered through?
Well, we submitted a bump up request.
Right.
Yeah. So we submitted a bump up request. The minister did order for the regions to undertake a phosphorus reduction action plan, which they subsequently did. And basically, the information that they presented in their report coincides with the town's position that tertiary treatment is by far and away. If you're looking at phosphorus reduction, and that's what our emphasis is, and our position is that the province has said they want a phosphorus reduction action plan. Secondary optimization is not a reduction plan. The only reduction action plan option is tertiary treatment. There is no other. So it's pretty clear, and the region's supports that as well.
But they still want another EA after that to just finally.
I'm saying the minister could make that decision and order a full EA. We submitted a bump up request for EA, so that's essentially what we did.
Right.
Yeah.
And then timing, we're talking about 5 years, 6 years?
I don't think it'd be that long. It could be a couple of years out to go through the process, and there'd be costs to the town for this in terms of the science and the legal representation if we decided. But again, we're jumping ahead. Let's wait until we see the decision that the minister makes, and then we obviously have some recommendations to council in terms of how we proceed.
And then last question then, through the chair, is do we know, did he give any indication when a decision will be made? Even a ballpark? Okay.
Nothing, eh?
Thank you. Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dave. So just so I'm clear, so Did you meet with Dr. Auer and Minister Phillips at the environmental building there at Western 401? Is that what happened?
We were on St. Clair.
Okay, well, yeah.
At the
And I took a shot because I always see that building.
No, it's, their office is on St. Clair. Rod Phillips was not there. Dr. Auer, who's our doctor, Dr. Howell, who's the ministry's scientist.
Oh, did you say Dr. Auer or did I miss it here?
Yep, I said Dr. Auer from the town standpoint.
Right.
Dr. Howell from the ministry's perspective.
Okay,
So
but-
the two of them were in the room and they were talking about methodology and modeling and
Yeah, I can-
Dr. Howell was engaged in asking questions and Dr. Auer gave all the ratings. So
Thank you.
But Dr. Auer, you just presented his findings, or his findings were presented?
He's presented them multiple times
I
in
know.
the past. This was just with all of the ministry's technical staff.
Okay.
There's about 6 members of staff from the province that were there.
From the province, okay. I was just being slightly passive aggressive there because I was wondering, did we fly Dr. Auer up for this meeting?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did? For that, but you
Yep.
just said to me he wasn't at the meeting.
He was.
Well, he was at the meeting.
Rod Phillips wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, Rod Phillips, but Dr. Auer, so the town flew Dr. Auer up and he went to this meeting?
Our scientists and their scientists.
And our lawyers in the.
And our lawyer in
And
there.
our lawyers.
And Dave.
And Shane.
Shane.
You weren't there? Did you know all this was?
I wasn't there either.
Yep.
You wasn't there.
I'm sure I'll sign the check for Dr.
And I was gonna say, so, I don't know, maybe I'm talking, just something I should ask you out, but how much does it cost to fly Dr. Auer to Toronto and
To have.
ground
so-
transportation, hotel and meals and
So
his fee?
we did a specific award for this meeting for Dr. Auer and for Jennifer, and it'll be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000.
Bargain.
To move it forward.
Yeah, we better get tertiary.
After we spent 2-point-something million. it's-
Yeah.
Is that the number?
It's irrelevant
At this point, it's, we're in.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker?
So I approved the expenditure for Dr. Auer because this was really our best last shot. at-
Right, finally meeting with the province, with the
Well,
environmental minister.
we're finally meeting with the right people at the province,
Yeah.
the technical people, their scientists and so on, so,
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
it would have done us a disservice if he wasn't there.
Yeah, and I know everybody else is concerned about those costs too, but
Okay.
No, we're the same as well.
Thank you. Councillor Dice?
We are concerned about the cost, and it's not our fault. This has been a 4-year delay from the province's perspective, because nobody wants to make a decision.
right.
So it's gonna be delayed even further from, that's my sense, unless he does foliate, and then that's another 2-year delay too. Why, I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Exactly. So,
Province is
he asked my question about time frame, they didn't give me an indication of when they're gonna get back to you. But if I remember correctly, their staff also went down to the US and looked at a plant with tertiary treatment. I'm trying to think of the name. And they did a report on that. So there must have been, I believe it was a positive report, so they must have thought that tertiary was the way to go. So this then would be all about who's gonna pay, basically.
They spent a lot of time in Lake Erie.
Yes, I understand that.
That's-
Yeah, the focus is on Lake Erie, and that was kind of, from when the region presented the draft report to council in January 2018. Those questions were kind of about Lake Erie and trying to make it an Ontario issue, so apples and oranges.
If you could read between the lines, like, the ministry's almost, I think their technical staff like the work that Dr. Auer has now done because it could advance their case on a lake-wide basis as it relates to Lake Ontario, as it relates to tertiary treatment. So I think they're almost, regardless of the decision, I think the information that the town has provided is valuable in terms of how they're looking at the lake as a whole. And I think the sort of what we reach from Dr. Howell is the benefit of this could have moved like the yardstick from like miles in terms of advancing treatment in the lake as a whole. So I think regardless of the decision, I do think that there's been so much work that's been done that I think there will be a benefit.
Well, we've always said that, we've really led the way on the research on it,
Yes.
so, you know, there will be many benefits for a lot of municipalities around the lake. And it's good to know that they recognize it, because that's one of the questions we're getting now, because of Lake Erie, saying it's not, we're not the point source, it's the whole lake has a problem.
Dr. Howell was smart though too, because he recognized the work that Dr. Howell had done, and he didn't discredit Dr. Howell in any way in terms of his discussions on zebra mussels and those types of things. So he acknowledged the work and that it was good, good scientific work. So he was, like, he was complimentary to Dr. Howell as well, so he did a good job.
So what happens, say, if we don't hear anything in 2 months?
I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Well, I know because the discussions are gonna go back and forth between the two lawyers in terms of what authority and what decisions we think the minister has the ability to impose.
Did you tell them they must go?
Yeah.
I just don't want it to go on for months and months and months and limbo again. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay.
No, they're very clear, because they asked the question, what does the town expect?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Collier?
Thank you. Rather than Marilyn seeming over so if a bump up request, okay, how long is their capacity right now at the Dublin sewage treatment plant? So what I mean is, right now it's putting out however many 100,000 or however many liters per day, and there's still growth in the regions of York and Durham. If there's a 2-year delay because a full EA is ordered instead of a class EA, would that cause an issue with already approved construction in York? What I'm asking is, might they all of a sudden go, oh shoot, we can't afford this 2-year delay, maybe we'll just bite the bullet and pay for tertiary treatment and avoid the EA?
My understanding is the current plant has more capacity than that and can extend,
Right.
maybe say 5 to 10 years, right? If they had to sort of make do and
Okay,
sort of wait.
so there's nothing-
That's my understanding, it's not imminent in terms of the need for the expansion of the plant.
Okay. And just to my council colleagues, I did have a meeting with Rod Phillips, and he understands the thing, but he does not understand the science. When I started talking about the science, it was like, so that's when we suggested, okay, let's get our experts, talk to his experts, and get, because he just wasn't aware. And when I talked to him, when I was with the Premier and I talked about the efficiencies that the regions are talking about, which is 43 million or something for the efficiencies, it does nothing. And his exact words were, well, that's a Band-Aid fix, and I don't like Band-Aid fixes. This was the Premier. So, I mean, I think the will is there. I think they're looking for a way that doesn't make them look bad, that they can do it. So, I mean, I think it was worth the money to fly Dr. Auer here and have them give that very scientific information. Because, you know, when I told Rod, I said, these efficiencies do nothing. Like, we all know, we've seen the graph in Dr. Auer's where at 0.8 micrograms per liter, the algae is not nuisance. As soon as you hit 1.5, it doesn't matter if you're 1.5 or you're 20, it's super saturated, it's gonna grow like crazy. So what I said to Rod was, we're at 20 now, lowering it to 18 is gonna do nothing. We're throwing away that 40-odd million from the region. It's doing nothing to solve the problem. Once I told him that, he kind of said, oh, okay. So we've taken the next step now, and I think we've also shown that the region's approach to the PrAP plan isn't a phosphorus reduction at all, which is not what the minister ordered. True, not the minister, but the past minister. So we're keeping the pressure on, and I think also we've decided to not go ahead with that initiative that I talked about at the last GGC meeting, which is the not get out the vote, but get out the, start getting everybody all the promotion that we're going to do, because we are still working towards a positive. We're holding off on that. If it is shown that we're no longer making forward progress, then I expect I'll bring that back and we'll initiate that plan for our own.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bauer?
Thank you. Okay, so Joanne asked my question about timeline, so you expect that there'll be some sort of decision within a couple of months?
No, I would expect in the next little while, we'll have an understanding between our lawyers in terms of what we expect the minister's ability to make a decision.
Okay, but there's no timeline for after
They
that?
haven't indicated anything.
And is it our lawyer here in the corner?
No, it's
No.
Okay, so we couldn't ask for an update.
I'd be like Ron Phillips, I wouldn't understand.
Okay, so then I guess it's just a matter of we wait for that, and then are we gonna make a plan then to try and push that decision after? Like, how are we gonna, what do we do to get the answer? Once,
I think legally Jennifer's pretty confident of what the minister's ability to make a decision is. I think what the ministry staff were saying, that's not typical of the decisions they'd like to make. So, you can impose tertiary treatment, that's not what they typically want to impose,
Sure.
right? They would rather have tertiary treatment come out of a full EA, as opposed to him
Right.
being one that directs it or sets phosphorus limits for the operation.
Thank you. Councillor Dice?
But he has the authority.
so it's a sit and wait. and
Oh,
then-
So
sorry.
I just had a question about moving forward as well, because we've had a couple of reports, one early this year to this council, one previously to the other council, about the changes with our advisory committees, that we were modernizing them, and we were going forward with committees that maybe we would strike up as the needs arose. And there's two needs here, the craft support, giving that, informing people ahead of, of a decision coming out is a good thing, and being able to address certain issues along the way with that committee and getting that feedback from residents is a good thing, I believe. Also, we have the other issue of the headwaters of the Crothers, which is gonna come to a head. So I'm wondering what's happening with these committees, and if this is the time to start moving on something environmentally, that can look at both of those. So I'm just putting it out there, but we haven't done anything there yet, and we were sold this, and I'm not seeing any movement, so maybe this is an opportunity with this
right.
issue to get some feedback and some push.
If it's, will council for us to set up committees that we could inform, like a task force committee or something like that, that would be something that we would absolutely get direction.
But that was in a couple of reports, and you might know where to find them, but there was a report last year about the changes on committees, advisory committees.
Through the
To a
chair.
new format.
I believe it was the January 21st GGC report
Mhm.
that came forward about the
For
modernization.
this one.
For the
For this.
for this
This
item?
year?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was one last term as well, before the election. I remember having it come through. But anyway, I could be wrong, but.
We could definitely look into that, but the one about the modernization through the chair to Councillor Dice and the transition to the public engagement platform online, I believe that
Yes.
was the January 2019.
And I think this is a real great opportunity for public engagement.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's gonna happen, it could be drawn out a few more months.
Mr. Baker?
So, maybe Sarah, if you could get me a copy of that report, and I
Sure.
can go through it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Collier?
Just to the, if an EA was ordered by the minister, would we be part of that? Would town of Ajax be part of that, like one of the parties?
Well,
We would want to be, so how would we obtain party status to that?
Well, there'd be party status necessarily, they would complete the funds would be required to complete a full EA.
But we have all the data. We spent millions of dollars getting all the data from the world's most renowned expert on Clitoptera.
You wrote the bump.
Yeah, we wrote the bump up.
Yeah. But we're not the proponents, right? The regions are the proponents for the EA. So we would be part of the process. They'd have to have an involved public consultation process. They'll have to provide opportunities to share information, opportunities for feedback, opportunities for us to hold our own information sessions, all those types of things. We would have to make decisions on how we want the process.
That's when we'd have a big campaign.
Yes.
Okay.
And you would see party status.
Okay, yeah.
And part of this whole process, remember, this environmental assessment is all part of LPAC. And it may that'll be part of the changes that we're.
Get an LPAT next.
Mr. Meredith wants to speak to as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other questions or comments? Do I have a mover?
Just received information.
Sorry?
No, that's fine, you're good.
Move to receive?
Yes. Those in favor? Opposed? I need a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
No,
I think
no,
he has
no,
a
no.
second.
What?
update.
You have
The
more?
second half.
Really?
We got the
You only said
LPAT part.
one thing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he did say one thing.
These are two things.
Okay.
No, no,
thanks.
no, but he's only spoken so far to one thing.
Yeah.
Bill 108.
Okay, back up.
So,
Okay.
so Bill and Wade, this is just being brought to your attention in case you do get some questions, or if you have any questions now. We as staff are still trying to get through the layers of information in terms of what it all means. I just want to highlight a couple of key things. First of all, it's probably not, and we're not unlike many other municipalities where we do plan on bringing a full staff report on the impacts of Bill 108 in September. There's no possible way to digest and understand the complete impacts when there's still so many unanswered questions. Basically, Bill 108, which is called More Homes, More Choices, and is sort of intended to focus on the added supply of affordable housing, but it impacts about 15 pieces of legislation. Everything from the Endangered Species Act to the Ontario Heritage Act, the Environmental Assessment Act, and then 3 that I just wanted to touch base with you today. One is the Development Charge Act, one is the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal Act, which is LPAT, and the third is the Planning Act. So those are the 3 things that are immediately impacted that I think Council will have an interest in. First, as it relates to the DC Act, so it's really changing. We've got CN Watson that's sort of working and will work in terms of understanding the impact over the next several months. But essentially, they come up with a new term called the Community Benefit Charge, and they're separating the Community Benefit Charge from the DC charge. So the community benefit, they have not even at this point defined what community benefit is. It's a growth-related, and it's a fee that municipalities will have the ability to impose on the developers, a developer that is growth-related. In order to do that, we have to do a community benefit study. And so essentially, we will be doing 2 studies. We used to just do a DC background study. Now there'll probably be a DC background study plus a community benefit study. So it really is going to branch it into 2 separate areas. And the areas that it impacts the most in all likelihood are going to be recreation, parks, and libraries in terms of the ability or the non-ability to impose DCs relating to those assets. So you're going to have lots of questions. We don't have answers because we don't know what community benefit is. We don't know the methodology in terms of how we calculate the costs, and we don't know if there's going to be any caps imposed as it relates to any of those items. So that is a bit of a complication, that we're not sure what the bottom line impact is. It's something that through the summer we hope to work our way through. Planning and Development and Finance will be working collaboratively and bring a joint report in September to understand sort of what that impact is. As part of the DCs, as I mentioned, library, mostly collections and educational type material will be eligible for DCs. From an affordability standpoint, secondary units will be exempt from DCs, and there is also flexibility in terms of the timing for payment of DCs as it relates to affordable housing projects. So as occupancy takes, not necessarily the time of building permit, but as occupancies take place, there could be different timing and triggers for when actual DC payments are made, so that affects cash flow as well. Parkland dedication and acquisition costs can be part of the community benefit charge, so that'll need to be factored in, and it's not clear on the community benefit versus the section 41, which is the cash flow parkland provision of the Planning Act. So there's lots of things in terms of DC eligibility and what the bottom line impact is. I think the bottom line impact is going to be negative to municipalities. We're just not sure of the extent to what degree and actually how. The second was LPAT. I think many of you know that the former Ontario Municipal Board went through reform over a number of years of public consultation, and the OMB actually became LPAT assured that decisions that were being made by local officials, that they were in line with the official plan and with provincial policies, that they would be supported, and there was limited appeal rights for having those decisions overturned. The LPAT legislation is concerning because it is now shifting things back to the way the Interior Municipal Board used to be, which was a member of council I would not be pleased with because it's taken a lot of the power and authority away from the local elected officials in terms of the final decisions. We would get back to the point where, you know, a developer would come in under certain scenarios, refer to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the decisions are ultimately taken out of local council under their hands. So it is concerning that that legislation is going backwards to the way we were 10 years ago. And you're going to hear that from all municipalities that I can't imagine one that will be on board with the LPAT changes that are being proposed. It's going to add cost, it's going to add timelines. It goes counter to a lot of everything else that the province is trying to do in terms of expediting timelines and process. From a Planning Act perspective, they're reducing timeframes, so official plan amendments need to be processed from 210 days down to 120 days, zoning bylaw amendments from 150 down to 90 days. So a significantly compressed timeframe that we're expecting to process applications. So that was the, I don't think there's anything else. Talked a little bit about community benefits, but those are sort of just very high level, just some of the changes that are being recommended within the legislation. Sheila, I don't know, is there anything you wanted to add, or I kept it sort of high level, but
You hit everything that I would have talked about. I was more focused on the DC part.
But there's lots of work that obviously we need to do in terms of formulating comments to council in an informed way. Like I say, there's still a lot of questions and answers. There's been CN Watson's released information, AMO's released information. If you go onto their website, that provides a good commentary. AMO's in particular, if you go into AMO's website, it provides a good commentary of the impacts of Bill 108 to local municipalities. So it's really for your information. You're going to start to hear a lot about it, and when you're out and about with other members of council, it gives you a little bit of a baseline of information and topics of conversation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dave Meredith.
So can you please come?
Hello, there's people in line.
My apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak
I didn't
in
know
line?
if they heard or not.
Would you like to speak?
Question time.
Oh, they don't know yet. They have their own meeting going on up
Yeah.
there.
Hey,
Mayor
I thought I
Collier?
was first on the speaking list.
Yeah, you are.
My apologies.
Just waiting. I can multitask. Thanks, Dave, and I'd asked you earlier for an update on this because this is something that could affect us. But you said it's going to impact municipalities negatively financially. I looked at the DC changes and thought that would impact us positively because now we can recoup the full cost of growth. Is that not? Did I read that wrong or understand you wrong?
Well, this is sort of where the lack of clarity comes in right now because, for example, we're building a community center before. We had all development in town is paying DCs
Right.
towards this community center. It seems that the way that it's written is it's in geographic proximity to the actual growth and development, and how community really depends on how you're defining the community benefit. Right? Is it in that immediate neighborhood, and how can that growth in that area pertain to something that you're collecting and not going to build for 5 to 10 years? Because in this, they've also, and there's terminology that they've used within each calendar year, you have to spend or allot 60% of the money received in each given year as well. So how does that, so how do you allot or allocate sort of that money, and what does that mean? If it's for future budgets 5 to 10 years down the road for the community center, is that an allocation? That's something the council can change? Are you tied into it? Like, we have no idea what that community benefit means and how it looks. Like the terminology is different, and we just have concerns of a lot of our larger community facilities, how we fund them. If there's no DC legislation, and then how does this get written?
Interesting, okay, because I read that as a potential positive, because we'll be able to collect more DCs, where right now we can't collect the full amount.
I think we're,
So, we're gonna give
probably more
comments,
skeptical
right?
on the staff side of
The-
things.
To your point, there is a spot somewhere I did read where, the 10% on something was getting eliminated.
Waste.
Was it waste?
Waste
Yeah.
Which
diversion's-
isn't us.
Waste diversion's 100%.
But
out.
waste
Yeah.
is a huge
But it's huge for
expense
the
coming
region.
forward to the region.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
It's
hundreds of
100%
millions of dollars.
Yes, but I think my concern is kind of the separation of them. Now we're going to have two separate processes, two collections, administration, two studies, two more things that can get appealed. I think it could layer in some complexities. And it'll be interesting, given where our development stage is at, what that will end up looking like as well.
Okay, we're invited to give comments, right?
Yes.
How long do we have to give comments?
Well, there's no, they give you till June 1st, which is not ever gonna happen by.
Can we put something together?
We will try and do something at least at a staff
We don't
level,
get it.
and we've done that in the past. And we will indicate that we do have a follow-up report coming to council in September, we have done that.
Okay. And to the LPAT/OMB review, I'd like to know it's not available, or you just haven't got that deep into it yet to be able to give us details?
Oh, it clearly is giving the authority back to the province to make land use planning decisions and taking it out of the hands of local council.
So that's not helpful. When will this take effect?
There's no date in this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so once it's passed third reading. So that could be in a year?
Could be, depends on the comments that they receive from the,
Okay, so-
it could be like the open for business bylaw.
So in the meantime, if this development at what's it called, Home Away or whatever, at Burden and Finley, for instance, comes forward and we turn it down, that would go through the LPAT rules
Goes to the LPAT, yeah.
until this is passed.
Correct.
Got it.
It's only
okay.
at first reading.
Yeah. So I don't know, I don't see this as really thoroughly well thought out by the province. It sounds like they're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall. They've already shown that with the Bill 66, they will retract it if it is very negative. So I just suggest we make our comments as quickly as possible. If we need to have a special meeting, we can have a special meeting to get this done. If it doesn't warrant waiting till September, but if you're saying waiting till September makes no difference, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, hopefully we can respond in a more informed way if we have more time, right? Because we can't pull this together within the time frames and the level of detail that we need to understand. And we're still, our comments will be fairly high level because the details aren't provided for us to get specific comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Strain?
Dave, I think it's fair to say that our associations will be commenting as well. So AIM will be commenting, C.N. Watson, the Watson Associates now, they'll be commenting. They've already sent out comments to all their clients. So there will be some good, extensive commenting other than just us on these as well. So.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, my question was asked and answered.
Okay, Councillor Lee?
I have a library board meeting coming up on Thursday. You mentioned that libraries and services would be affected. Can you kind of this might be a question to Sheila, how would the libraries be affected with these changes?
Again, we don't have enough information to know. The proposal, as I understand it, is that libraries will no longer be covered through development charges, so future growth related to libraries wouldn't be able to collect DCs. I do know that I don't know the exact number, I can check, but we do use DCs every year for library collections, and I understand that would no longer be allowed, but
So,
again, is that right?
Sterling, the wording that AMO used in the release, it says, public library material for reference or circulation will also be excluded from the development charge calculations.
Yeah.
It doesn't say about the capital cost of buildings, but it makes specific reference to, for reference or circulation to the material.
Yes.
Thank you.
On libraries. I'm not understanding this focus on libraries.
They don't want people to read.
I'm not getting it.
They don't feel like-
Like that's
I'll withdraw that
such
comment.
a
I'll withdraw that.
non-issue.
I'll withdraw that.
They want you to
Shop at the libraries.
They're in favor of libraries, but they,
No, they're talking about
They're not.
library
Nobody-
boards,
Souls
and
and
should
stuff.
libraries be kind of uploaded to the cloud? I don't understand this focus on libraries.
Are there any other questions or comments? Is that it for you, Mr. Meredith? Okay.
Motion to receive?
I need a motion.
What?
Mr. Bauer? All those in favor?
What was,
What are we doing? What are
We
we
just,
voting?
we just adjourned.
No.
I know, but Sarah's going white over there. What are you doing?
Okay.
a motion for?
I need a motion
Receive
to
for
receive.
information because you did it
To
for
receive
each
information.
item separately, it's fine.
Yes, right. Those in favor?
I already voted.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
No.
Yay.
Moved by
I moved
Councilor
it.
By
Lee.
Councilor Lee again?
I got you, Sarah.
Those in favor, those opposed?
You know your name.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Did we adjourn? We did. Thank you.
We adjourned, yeah, we're waiting.
No, it's a recorded vote. We gotta hear it one by one.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Good job, boss.